Aloha kakahiaka, everyone. It is 9:02 a.m. Will the Committee on Budget please come to order? I'd like to welcome committee members Cordero and Weyer. We also have with us here in the chambers Councilmember Okimoto and Councilmember Tupola. Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto and Councilmember Kiaina, who are members of the committee, are excused for the time being. We currently don't have any members participating remotely by video conference, but if they do, we'll have some further announcements. I'd like to welcome Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto and Councilmember Kiaina to the chambers as well. Pursuant to Section 92-3.7 Hawaii Revised Statutes, this meeting will be conducted as a remote meeting by interactive conference technology with the following procedures in effect for the meeting. Members of the public will be allowed to provide oral testimony on all items on the agenda in two ways, remotely and in person in the council chamber. Remote and in-person oral testimony will be allowed when the agenda item is taken up. As both English and Hawaiian are the official languages of the state of Hawaii, pursuant to Article 15, Section 4 of the Hawaii State Constitution and Section 1-13 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes, members of the public may testify in either language. For oral testimonies offered in Olelo, Hawaii, additional time as may be necessary will be allowed for the testifier to provide an English translation of their testimony. Before testifying, each person shall state their name. Each speaker may not have anyone else read their statement and is limited to a 1-minute presentation on each item. All persons who have registered to testify remotely by video conference will be called upon first. When your name is called, please monitor your screen and activate your audio feed when prompted. I'll then give persons who have not registered an opportunity to provide testimony. Please utilize the raise hand feature in Zoom to be called upon. For those joining us by telephone only, please press *9 to indicate your desire to speak. I'll identify you by the last 3 digits of your phone number. When your number is called, please press *6 to unmute yourself when prompted. Some friendly reminders and tips: video conference from a quiet location if possible. If you're watching the proceedings on Olelo, please mute your television at the time you're called to testify, and when the timer on screen reaches 0, please conclude your remarks promptly. Once all the remote testifiers have testified, I'll proceed to in-person testimony here in the chamber. Persons who have not registered will be given an opportunity to speak following the oral testimonies of the registered speakers. HRS Section 92-3.7 requires all votes in remote meetings to be conducted by a roll call unless unanimous. Therefore, I'll first call for objections, and if there are any, I'll call for a roll call vote. Written testimonies, including the testifier's address, email address, and phone number, will be available to the public as described in the posted agenda, and as a courtesy, please turn off all cell phones. Members, if there's no objection, we'll be taking up agenda item number 9, which is Resolution 25-100 first. This is the appointment of Robert Cundiff to the Liquor Commission, since he's here, and that way we can get him back to the rest of his busy schedule, and then we can take up all the fun stuff in the balance of our agenda. So let's start with agenda item number 9. If there's no objection, I'd also like to welcome Council Chair Tommy Waters here to the chamber. All right, let's begin. Agenda item number 8, number 9, we have the appointee here in the chamber. If you'd like to say anything.
Good morning, everybody. Good morning, Chair, the Santos-Tam. Committee members, thank you so much for allowing me to be here this morning to join you, and thanks for moving me up on the agenda. Allow me to get the rest of my day going. I'm open to any questions that you might have.
Members, any questions? Councilmember Kiaina.
Thank you, Mr. Cundiff. You have an impressive background in the private sector, which I think would be helpful. But I guess I need to ask, because it's been a little quiet in maybe over the last year. Are you familiar with all of the previous efforts over the last 4 years with regard to trying to restore public trust in the Liquor Commission? That's my first question. And then second, because I know you know the answer to that already, but I just want to know if whatever you could do to help with regard to, because I feel that the efforts that we and the administration have undertaken to assess what is going on and make recommendations, my worry is that the recommendations are not taken seriously. So I just want to know, number one, if you know that that's our overall concern, and 2, if you have looked at the report from the administration and what needs to be implemented so that you could work with your other commissioners as well as the executive director to truly restore trust in the Liquor Commission.
Thank you, Councilmember Kiaina, for that question. Yes, I am familiar with what has happened over the last 4 years. I've born and raised in the state of Hawaii. I've been here most of my life. Spent a couple years in Japan getting a graduate degree at Tokai University. but my entire business professional career has been here in Hawaii. Familiar with what has been happening over the last few years relative to the Liquor Commission. Obviously, not familiar with all the specifics, having not been within the Liquor Commission to really understand or take a deep dive as to what all the issues are, but am familiar with that, understand the reputation of the Liquor Commission and the necessity to improve that. And I think that the commission is taking the efforts, bringing in new commission members, bringing in new staff. We have a new administrator. I think there is an extensive effort to change that perception in the community. Familiar with the report that you mentioned, recommendations from City Council. In other words, my understanding is part of the reason why I think I was selected to join this board is I bring a business perspective to the commission. I currently serve on the state's Small Business Regulatory Review Board. In that capacity, we review all rules and regulations that impact small business. The Liquor Commission has come before us multiple times, as well as other state agencies and counties. And my approach to this is to ensure that obviously we uphold the laws and the regulations that have been established through statute. But how do we engage with the business community and small business to ensure that we are allowing them to run their operations and be successful in doing so and still comply with our regulations? In terms of the approach that the commission is taking right now, obviously I'll need to get in the commission, meet with the administrator to understand all the issues that are confronting the commission to really build an idea and an opinion as to how we can approach that. But obviously the city council members and your inputs and feedback is extremely valued towards addressing these issues, and we certainly welcome it.
Thank you so much. I'm looking forward to being on board. Just two things I just wanted to mention. First, I am concerned that someone with a lot of institutional knowledge, the deputy, will be leaving. And you need to be worried about that, because in order to just implement the recommendations and keep the morale of the staff there, you need to get somebody good. Second, I have, and we've said as a city council for other agencies that you really need to look at the pay scale of your investigators and all across the board to see if they need to be updated. And since you have an independent budget, you have the discretion to do that, and you're in a better situation than other agencies, right? Because you have this cash flow coming in. And so I just wanted to highlight that for you, because I think the morale of the staff is equally important. And since we are looking across the board at ensuring that our city employees are adequately paid, that be part of the factor when you look into it. But thank you so much for putting yourself forward to serve.
Thank you. I'll just make a comment to those 2 points. Number one is, with my position with the Small Regulatory Review Board, Liquor Commission has come in front of us, and Ana Harai has been a constant throughout. So I certainly understand the loss, the institutional loss with her retirement. And we certainly need to address how we maintain that institutional knowledge and how we continue to capitalize and train internal staff prior to her departure. And relative to staffing, my understanding is that we are short in staffing. If it is related to pay scale, I think that it is important that we review that and how we stack up competitively to similar positions within the community. We certainly want to be able to maintain a staff so that we can continue to operate as efficiently as possible. And if pay is one of the items that are preventing us from doing that, we will certainly take a look at it. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Members, any other questions for the appointee? Okay, there being none, thank you for your willingness to serve. And at this time, I'd like to ask if there's any testifiers. Clerks, has anyone registered to testify either online or remotely, or is anyone here in the chambers waiting to testify or online or remotely?
There are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we are in discussion. Members, any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, Chair recommends a Resolution 25-100 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations to the recommendation? Hearing none, so ordered. Thank you again for your service, and we look forward to seeing you join the Liquor Commission and continuing all the efforts that Councilmember Kiaina mentioned to help improve this commission.
Thank you, Chair Dos Santos-Tam and committee members. Appreciate it very much. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, members, we have next, we're going to go back to agenda item number 1. This is Bill 60 of 2024, CD1. It amends portions of Chapter 43, ROH 2021 by first amending the ROH section 43-6.2 to include accessory dwelling units in the residential service charge classification. Secondly, it amends ROH section 43-6.6 to remove all provisions relating to non-residential strength surcharges and replace it with provisions on wastewater disposal charges for waste haulers. Thirdly, it amends Appendix 43A to include new sewer service charges and wastewater disposal charges and to remove extra strength wastewater charges as well as a second customer category. Fourthly, it amends ROH section 43-10.3 to include accessory dwelling units. And fifthly, it amends ROH section 43-10.4 to remove references to wastewater strength. And sixthly, amends Appendix 43C to include new wastewater system facility charges. Members, we do have 2 proposed posted CD2s submitted by myself and Chair Waters. For your information, those amendments are listed on the agenda. At this time, I'd like to defer to Council Chair Waters to explain his proposal.
Thank you so much. I just first want to start off by thanking you for all your hard work on this very, very important and difficult subject. But basically, my CD2 does only a 5-year plan, and it is a 6.75% increase over those 5 years. I do want to acknowledge from the get-go that after speaking with Director Babcock last week, that my initial calculations were wrong. We started from 2012 rather than 2016, which is an easy fix. I'm not sure if we want to do it verbally or not, but I just do want to acknowledge that I started the increases from 2012, or really I should have been doing it from 2016, which is the last date that sewer increases took effect. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. All right, let's dive into Director. We have Directors Kawano and Director Babcock here. Who wants to go first? I understand that Director Babcock has a presentation which is available online as Departmental Communication 394. All right. It appears that Director Kawano won the Junkin-Po, so he's going to go first.
Good morning, Budget Chair Dos Santos-Tam, Honorable Council members, Chair Waters, and thank you for allowing Dr. Babcock and I to speak about Bill 60. Just want to reiterate that the sewer fund has to be self-sustaining, as I've stated earlier. The fund requires that, as needed, charges are increased to cover the operating and maintenance costs to keep the program moving along, and to cover debt service and any cash reserves to meet the requirements that are in our bond documents with regard to the rate covenant. So, the fund has to remain strong itself. Any kind of funding provided from outside of the sewer fund will not count. So when our bond counsel, the rating agencies look at future financial reports, if we are infusing cash from other funding sources, that will not count. We may not make our debt covenant if we heavily rely on monies moved into the sewer fund from the general fund. So keep that in mind, as we have the discussion. So it's very important that, we raise rates as presented by Dr. Babcock, as proposed by both Budget Chair Dos Santos-Tam and City Council Chair Waters. We need to do increases. As City Council Chair Waters mentioned, his version of the CD2 will have to be corrected. And I thank him for being upfront. If you look at that CD, because he based the increases on 2012 as a starting point, the 2026 and forward rates are actually lower than the current rates for the base charge and for the volumetric charge. That's not going to work. If we follow through on that plan, we're going to have issues. So thankful that Chair Waters brought that up. He will apparently revise his proposal. Through our consultant study, I can say that the version provided by Budget Chair does work. It's more heavily weighted to the volumetric charge, but the revenue calculations will meet our required minimums going forward through 10 years. There could be an option if it's more palatable for council members to truncate the term to 5 to 7 years, in that range instead of 10. That's possible. If we do that, we would meet our required minimums for every year, 1 through 5 or 1 through 7, depending on what council members decide. So I just wanted to put that out there for discussion today. I'll take questions after Dr. Babcock's presentation.
Okay.
Return the floor to you.
Great. In that case, why don't we turn the floor over to Director Babcock, and then we'll take questions for both departments afterwards, because I think some of the questions may be complex and require answers from both departments. Again, the presentation for those following along at home is Departmental Communication 394. And I see it on the screen here.
Good morning, Chair Dos Santos-Tam, committee members, Roger Babcock, Director, Department of Environmental Services. Good morning. I just have a quick presentation which goes over the CD2, Committee Chair's CD2, describing the sewer fee increase and just providing some context for the numbers that we've presented. It is a 10-year proposal, a proposal to increase the fees over 10 years. And this is, again, the first adjustment since 2016. It takes into account operation and maintenance of all of our facilities, existing debt service, and new debt service proposed to be initiated during the time period in support of a $6.5 billion capital improvement program, which is the part that is during the 10-year period. We do not issue $6.5 billion of debt. We issue debt to make progress payments on construction projects. So the amount of debt payments issued during the time period that's budgeted for is a much smaller number than that. Okay, so the next slide just shows a little bit about how the sewer bill works. Just for a reminder, there's a base charge, which is about 70% of the bill currently. There's a volumetric charge, which is about 32%, which is based on the monthly water use. There is a 20% irrigation credit that is given to all users. So that's 20% of your water use that Board of Water Supply measures. And that's assumed for outdoor use that does not become sewage. So for example, the median household uses 6,000 gallons per month, but they're billed for 80% of that, or 4,800 gallons of sewage. It's notable that we use uniform rates for all single-family households, pay the same rate, currently $77.55, and the volumetric rate applies for every 1,000 gallons of usage, and it's currently $4.63 per 1,000 gallons. And a typical bill for the median user is shown there, 6,000 gallons per month. Is $99.77, which includes the base charge of $77.55 plus a volumetric charge of $22.22. So that's how the sewer bill comes to be. rate package is shown here, and in the CD2, it proposes to shift the proportions of the bill from 70-30 to 40-60, and this gives users more control over their bill, customers. The percentage increases shown are 6% in year 1, 7.5% in year 2, 8.5% in year 3, 9% in years 4, 5, 6, and 7, 8% in year 8, 7.5% in year 9, and 7% in year 10. That does add up to 115% when it's compounded. Okay, the next couple slides are just kind of showing a little bit of information about what this is for customers. A 2,000 gallons per month customer, about 10% of Honolulu single-family households use 2,000 gallons a month of water or less. And it gives some characteristics of perhaps who those folks might be. The table on the right shows the current charges that these customers pay, $84.96. And then it shows with the proposed CD2 what their bill would look like in each of the next 10 years. In year 1, the bill actually goes down by about $8.70, $8.69 to be exact. It goes down again in year 2, and then it starts to increase year over year as we move on. So in year 3, it goes up $5 from the previous year, but it still hasn't reached what it was today, what it is today. And not until year 5 do we see that the bill is $86.60, which is a couple of dollars more than it is today. The next profile is for a 4,000 gallon per month user. This is 30% of Honolulu households use this amount or less. And then the table on the right shows that they currently pay $92.37. Their bill also will go down a little bit. And this is because of the shifting from 70-30 to 40-60, a larger volumetric charge and a smaller base charge. So their bill goes down for a couple years. The monthly bill goes down $3.38 for the first year each month. And then the second year, it's $2.86 further decrease. Then in year 3, their bill is about $1 more than it is today. And then you can see as it moves through the years, in year 4, it's $8.42 more than the prior year, then $9.14 more the prior year, etc. So the bill goes up between $7 and $8 to $10 per month over the 10-year period. Next, we'll move on to the 6,000 gallon per month user. This is the median user, which means half of all customers use this amount or less. Current charge is $99.77, and then you can see how the bill will increase each year. So the first year, it'll go up by $1.94 per month. The next year, an additional $3.34 per month compared to the prior year, and then $8.90, etc. Eventually, it goes up about $12 to $13 each month per month for those years 9 and 10. Okay, next one we have is 9,000 gallons per month user. This is 70% of all households use this amount of water or less. Currently $111 roughly. It's going to go up by $9.90 in the first year. Second year, an additional $12.66, etc. So this is to give some ideas about how much bills will go up each year. Finally, one last one is the 15,000 gallon per month user. This is a large water user. Only 10%, this is the highest 10% of water users in the county. Currently paying $133. It's going to go up more than all the other samples. It's going to go up $25.84 per month in the first year. And then those increases continue as we go through the various years. There's a larger increases in the beginning, and then they moderate. As you see in year 3, it goes up an additional $16, and then $18, and then $20. And that's because of the phase-in of the changeover from 70-30 to 40-60. Next slide kind of summarizes all of those numbers from the previous slide, breaks it down by base charge and volumetric charges, and shows you the component of each, and sort of you can kind of look at it and see what the fractions are. Again, it has for 2,000 gallons a month, 4,000, 6,000, 9,000, and 15,000. And it shows for each year of the 10 years what the bill is, and it's broken down by both base charge and volumetric charge. And you can see that the base charge is currently 70, volumetric 30. Base charge will switch to 40, 60. Okay, so there are just two more slides, and this one is to look at, to sort of quantify the other CD2, the 5-year proposed package, and it was mentioned that the numbers were not calculated as intended, so the numbers ended up a little bit off, and so it does show the current. For example, 77.55 is the current base charge, and the proposed CD2 had 67.50, which is about $10 less per month than currently. And also the volumetric charge is decreased from $4.63 to $4.02. So in order to calculate the revenue generated from those, you have to have the sewer system model, which basically uses these numbers and knows and calculates for every single residence the revenue generated from those numbers. So that's not an easy thing to calculate. It can't be done just in a simple spreadsheet or something. So the numbers didn't quite turn out as intended. So in the lower part of the table, it shows that the percent increase in year one is actually a decrease of 13%. So projected revenues would decrease from the current. Current is $457 million. And this proposed CD would result in $397 million. So that's a $60 million decrease, which would be very, very problematic for the program. And then you see that the increases go up by the close to the intended 6.75% in the outer years. And for a total increase over the 5 years of 13% cumulative. And it is noted that these rates preserve the current ratio of roughly 70 to 30. It's actually 73% to 27% as shown between the base charge and the volumetric charge. So in order to figure out the charges, like on this table where it has the residential single-family base charge and the consumption charges, it takes some effort. So the way you do it is you have to figure out the total revenue that you're interested in. So if you're interested in 6.75% additional revenue, you have to get that number. It's a big number. It's $457 million plus 6.75%. And then you have to use that number and the model and then calculate a combination of a base charge and a volumetric charge that will generate that amount of revenue. So that's not easy to do. It does require iterations and using a calculation of everyone's sewer bill. We have not done that, so we do not know exactly what those rates would be. The final slide then just sort of continues on looking at the revenues. So the CD2 with the reduced revenues, we can see that the top 3 rows there show that it generates a total revenue over the 5 years of $2.275 billion cumulative. And this is actually less. The next row shows if there was no rate increase at all compared to current rates, it would generate $2.285 billion. The CD2, the other CD2 option that's been presented If you just look at the first 5 years, it generates 2.857 billion, and it's a 46.9% cumulative increase through the first 5 years. So the shortfall is about 600 million. The next slide, the next rows at the bottom show looking at what's been proposed for the OTAT, moving some of the money starting in 27, or adding that in, and over those 4 years it would add up to 196 million. And so this would still also result in a shortfall of about 386 million. So that's the presentation that we have, just to sort of give it a little update. And we'd be happy to answer any questions, Chair. Thank you.
All right, members, we're going to open it to questions. I'm going to start on my right and move to my left. So any questions? Council Vice Chair Weyer.
Thank you, Chair. And I'll just do a few preliminary questions because I know other folks probably have a lot. All the directors for the overview. So the initial rebate program was it $25 per household?
Yeah, thanks. We had proposed $20 to $25.
Okay. Is that still being considered and evaluated and reviewed?
Yeah, so that's to be determined. Once you decide on what that number is, then you can figure out how many households could benefit. So it really, you can choose whatever number you want in order to essentially benefit a larger number of households. I believe that that number benefits approximately 40,000 households, but I'd have to check that number. That was presented at the last budget meeting.
Okay.
Yeah.
I try not to do math, but I'm just looking at the 2,000 gallon per month user. So if the 25 rebate program was chosen, for example, for low-income households, that would pretty much cover the increase all the way up to 2032-ish. Does that seem accurate?
Yeah, so if you did, if you take out another $25, at least through 31.
And then it would go up nominally. Of course, every amount matters, but $4 and then a little bit more.
That's correct.
Give or take.
If they qualified, if they're a low water user and they also qualify for the assistance program.
Okay. And I think that kind of compares to the other gallons per user. Obviously, the increase would be a few dollars more, but just wanted to confirm that because that was my initial reading. And then I guess the last question, and it could be for you or Director Kwano. Do we know yet who's going to be managing the resilience fund? And then two, given the breadth of the recent bill or the breadth of the language, I'm curious if the potential contracts going out to nonprofits or city, city operations could include funds for water conservation, because I know that was noted, as a tool for all the households to potentially bring down their bill as well. Yeah,
so I think it seems like there's two different funds we're talking about, but with respect to the sewer fund, we have in the budget actually money to contract for a nonprofit to assist with the CARES program, to help to administer that, to get people signed up, and to process applications and essentially let us know who qualifies, and then we would put the credits on their bill.
Appreciate that. So as Director Babcock comes up, so I'm hearing you say for the rebate program, there'd be a nonprofit contracted to operate that. And then Director Kwano.
Yeah, with regard to the Climate Resiliency Fund, if I got that right, in terms of, well, Charter says BFS should manage the fund. We understand that the Office of Climate Change, Resiliency, and Sustainability would like to be involved in the operations of the fund, setting policy, strategy, and then carrying out strategy. They want to be involved. We're open, in terms of BFS to work with them. But with regard to the maintenance and the fiscal budgeting responsibilities for the fund itself, BFS will probably be overseeing that.
Okay, I appreciate that. And really, I was just asking to make sure I was directing the question to the right person. I trust you and CCSR to work it out. But I do think, that was contemplated in the language through conversations with nonprofits, given especially the change in funding sources that they have. Like, are there ways to get funds out to community to do these type of upgrades that can both, reduce their costs and then also keep their home safe? So appreciate that. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Floor Leader Cordero, questions?
Thank you. This is for either BFS or ENV about how or where the funds of the rebate program will be coming from.
Yeah, thanks. So they do come from the sewer fund. Yep.
Oh, okay. So the sewer fee increases will then fund directly into the rebate program that will then go to a certain, I guess, criteria that will need support from the sewer fee increases.
Yeah, that's correct. So there is a sewer fund cash account, which has existing funds in it. That is where all sewer fee revenues and other revenues as part of the sewer program go into that account. And that same account would be used to fund any customer assistance program that is that's contemplated. Yeah.
Does it currently fund any other rebate programs within ENV?
No, definitely not other than ENV. So the sewer fund can only be used for sewer-related items.
Okay.
Yeah, there used to be a program where we participated with Board of Water Supply and jointly paid for part of a rebate program, for example, for toilets. But at some point in the past, we stopped participating in that. But
Right. I think that was about leakage, right? Or is it the leaking, or no?
yeah, so well, leakage is a different thing. So if folks have a very high water bill, for example, and therefore they would get a high sewer bill, they are they're contacted by Board of Water Supply, and they notice something looks awry, and they might suspect a leak, and then BWS will do inspections, and they do have a credit program for folks that they do discover a leak, so they can back credit, and that does occur for both the water bill and the sewer bill.
Do you think that will be the same for the rebate program as to being proactive in helping customers that may or may not, they would have a certain pattern, and then you would notice that there was an increase? Would you anticipate the rebate program being formed that way?
Well, so right now, as formulated, the rebate program is based on need, and so it would be based on financial need. And what we've proposed, and it can be modified, is to target folks that make as household income is 80% or less of the area median income. And so we've put together some numbers about how many folks, how many households that is and stuff like that. But there are other ways to do it, and that can be modified as desired. That is what most other utilities that have customer assistance programs do. They might have an elderly, an age-based benefit. They could have a low-income benefit. I've seen ones where they have it if folks have lost a job for a period of time. And then they generally modify the program as needed to be able to try and target and get to their customers that they feel need it the most. But what we've proposed is the 80% of AMI.
Okay, thank you. I just worry because I was going door to door in the garage of someone, and they didn't realize that their utilities were going to either be cut off or they wouldn't be able to afford them until like maybe 4 months into it. So are they able to apply for a rebate program retroactively maybe after they realize it? This particular person didn't get a job. Her husband was then placed on leave without pay from Halawa prison, and just a lot of different things as to why they wouldn't be able to pay their utility bill, and they just didn't realize it until like 6 months later or so. So I mean, I just worry about the program mainly, but that's just a situation that maybe can be discussed further if this goes forward. With that, as for the Bill 60 alternatives with the slide that's up there now, I was wondering because whose proposal is no rate increase and whose proposal is 6% option? Because then there's council chair alternative, and it's not labeled in the same manner.
Yeah, thank you for the question, and sorry for any confusion. The first one is the proposed, the CD2 alternative. The no rate increase is just for information, just for comparison. There is no proposal to do that.
Oh, I
but
see.
when we look at total revenues, it's useful to have that line. 6% option is the other CD2 budget chair's proposal.
Okay, got it. Thank you for the
Thanks.
clarification. And thank you, Budget Chair.
Thank you. Councilmember Kiana.
Thank you. This is for Director Kawano. Director Kawano, thank you for your statement alluding to the a 5-year rate increases versus 10. But just for educational purposes, can you tell me what the previous practice has been for this particular issue and perhaps other rate increases in the city?
From what I've seen, going back to the history of rate changes, the period of time has varied. I would say that the 10-year period being proposed under the CD2 with the 60-40 allocation that goes over 10 years is longer than normal, in terms of committed rate increases. But there are positives. The key positive is that if adopted 3 years into the schedule, we won't have to re-up the study to plan for the next series of increases. So it provides a lot more stability if you have 10 years. The other thing that you have to be aware of is that the bond community is watching these proceedings. They want to see the will of the administration and council working together to increase charges as needed, because if we delay it, let's say we postpone and we decide not to take the bill to a third reading, let's say we delay it for a couple months, that's not going to go across well, because as we've provided, in terms of some of the department communications that we've posted, specifically 346, Department Communication 346, delays in impacting and adopting charge increases will not be viewed in a positive manner, and it could very well result in a downgrade to our bonds. We have very highly rated bonds. The senior bonds are AA+, based on the latest issuance, and I think the community expects that we're going to act on increasing charges. I did bring up that we could go with a 5 to 7 year schedule, a truncated schedule, based on the analyses done by Dr. Babcock, Deputy Brick, and their consultant. If we go with a shorter period but stick to the same schedule that Dr. Babcock presented, we will make our minimum every year.
Okay.
And that includes meeting the rate covenant such that we make our debt service coverage ratio on an annual basis.
For me, I clearly understand, and I think most of my colleagues, with regard to the impact on our bond rating, I don't think any one of us wants to see that. I am troubled with the 10-year because we have never, has ENV ever proposed a 10-year rate increase?
Yeah, not that I know of, council member.
Okay, and I appreciate it. It's just that I'm sorry, but at the county, state, and federal level, that's just a long time. And so I would prefer, since several of us are concerned about the consent decree and alternative alternative models of how to address that, I feel more comfortable with a five-year. But thank you for all of your hard work, the administration, as well as both Chair Waters and Budget Chair Dos Santos-Tam. I think we do want to move it forward. I'm going to leave it to my colleagues who've been working on the various formulas. For me, I do support this moving forward, but only at the 5-year rate increase. Thank you.
Okay, Chair Waters.
Thank you. Dr. Babcock, thank you so much for this slide deck. You know, I really appreciate the time and effort that you took to put this together. You know, this morning's article in the Star Advertiser, they only talked about what it would cost in 1 year, where your slide deck actually lays it out for the whole 10-year period, which is really, really helpful for people to know exactly what's being contemplated here. And I just want to go over that a little bit. So for the 2,000 gallon per month user, that's typically 1 or 2 people who are very water conscious. They possibly have a small yard. They rarely wash their car or garden, right? That bill will go up from $84 to $127, which is modest. Then, as previously mentioned, if they qualify for the rebate, it basically goes up maybe $15, which is great. But the problem is only 10% of the users fall into this category. On the 4,000 gallon per user, this is typically a small family who likely practice regular conservation habits, including turning off their tap and whatnot. But their bill will go up from $92 to $163 over the 10-year period, which is just under double. But this is approximately 10 to 20% of the users, right? It says approximately 30% of the Honolulu households use 40,000 gallons or less. So you're including that with the 10% guys.
Correct.
Yeah, thank you. But the 6,000 gallon per month user over the 10-year period will go from $99 to $199, which would actually double. And this is people who do laundry 3 to 4 times a week, moderate dishwashing, occasional long showers, and maybe 2 kids. And by the way, I enjoy the pictures as well, right? The picture shows they got a young family with 2 kids. So a young family with 2 kids can expect to pay $200 a month for sewer. That's just the sewer, by the way. The water charge, based on slide number 1, is separate. So they're going to be paying their water bill plus a $200 sewer bill. For the 9,000 gallon user, it'll go from $110 to $253 a month. That's more than double, right? And this typically is a family with, looks like, according to the picture, 2 kids, they got a dog, maybe the in-laws are living there, they got to do laundry daily and wash dishes daily. So approximately 70% of Honolulu households fall in, or less, fall into this category, which I think is very typical, right? But the 9,000 gallon user, like I said, goes from $110 to $253. And then, of course, the large water user, which is typically, well, 15,000 gallons of water or less per month. Typically, it's a bigger family. Again, I like the picture, although the guy's watering his son in the photo, but he's got 4 kids, right? A dog, a boat, right? They got to wash the boat. But they're going to go up from $133 to $361. So that's almost triple. the idea here, though, really is once you get that high water bill, you're going to try to use less water, I'd imagine. But thank you for pointing that out. That was super helpful. But I note that we're talking about households typically, right?
Correct.
Which
Yep.
is helpful. I'm not sure how it'll affect apartment buildings because they're all on one water meter. This is where you have a separate water meter, yeah, what we've been talking about.
Correct. These are single family. Yep.
Yeah. And the rebate of $25 for low income, even if you have a large family, does it get more than $25 or is it just one time $25? So large family, do they get more than $25 rebate?
That's not what's been proposed. What's been proposed is something similar to the rental and utility relief program, which actually that was a little bit different. I think that paid a bigger percentage of their bill. This is a fixed number, and the goal there would be to try to benefit as many customers as possible that qualified.
Thank you. And then on the last couple of slides, you did kind of lay out what it would cost under the committee draft that I introduced, which I appreciate. But were those done on the incorrect numbers?
Yeah, correct. These are the numbers that are in the proposal, using the proposed numbers. Yeah.
Okay, and as I acknowledged, we gotta change that. But I do want to just point out that you have to agree with me that if we were to pay for some of these sewer projects with cash, we'd save money on interest rate from the bond, right?
Correct. If we pay cash for projects, then we don't borrow and we don't have debt service. We wouldn't be paying 4% interest. Yeah.
I guess my concern is at the end of the 10 years, all the bonds that we float, like we're going to be paying like 70% debt service, right?
I'm sorry, Chair Waters, I don't understand 70% debt service.
In the end, right, if we float all these bonds that are proposed, we're going to have to pay a heck of a lot of interest.
We're going to pay more interest. With our strong credit rating, typically, and just a rule of thumb, when you borrow to pay for improvements, you pay about double with the interest. Yeah, you pay the principal plus interest will essentially double up the cost. Keep in mind that we have to follow budgetary practices for the sewer fund. The sewer fund is still a part of the city. We only have limited cash capacity to cash finance projects. In addition to that, when we have active appropriations for projects and we essentially tie up cash, cash is not unreserved. And what happens is the unreserved balance gets diminished as projects get paid for by cash. So we have to be careful with that because if we run too low, we won't be able to cover the O&M aspect of the fund, to keep the fund in operation. So we have to keep that in mind as well.
So we got to be responsible on how much cash we use versus bonding.
Yes, it's a balancing act.
Just looking at next year and the out years, it looks like we're bonding more than we use cash, right?
We're going to bond more because we have to.
Right. And next year, I think there's in the budget $43 million worth of projects, of which 30 million will be bonded and 13 million would be cash, just as an example, right?
Yeah, I haven't looked at those numbers, but that's a good example, correct.
Okay. And just for argument's sake, if we use cash for the entire 43 million, that'll save, as you said, almost double, right, in bonding. So we'll save $30 million.
That's if, yeah.
If we use cash.
Yeah,
right.
Because keep in mind that while we may have lots of cash in the bank today, a large part of the cash balance is already reserved, either reserved against contracts that have been executed or against an active appropriation.
Understood. And then apparently we pay for positions out of the sewer fund as well. So we got to make sure we're able to take care of that as well. And I understand. Okay, thank you so much. And thank you, Chair.
Yeah, I just like to add a couple comments. There is cash-funded capital projects and debt-funded capital projects. And in the previous presentation, we presented those numbers. And in budget, you'll know for FY26, the capital program is 434 million, I believe, the total CIP program for sewer this coming year, in 1 year. As far as cash, we are projecting to spend 150 million, 149.8 million of that capital program will be spent in cash. The rest would be bonded. And the bond, the debt service for those bonds, because they're brand new, is 21 million. Okay, so we spend 150 million of the 434, so almost 300 million is debt financed, and the interest and payments on that is 21 million. So we're not spending 434 million in cash. That's how much we would need in cash this coming year. So we would, and the 6-year CIP program is very large. And if you were to pay for it all in cash, well, we would run out of cash in 2 years. It would all be gone. So there's no cash to be able to do that. And just so you know, the cash-funded capital projected for the 10 years is roughly 2.5 billion out of the total 8.4 billion. That's total expenditures, not just CIP. So instead of spending the cash, you just have the principal and interest, which over the 10-year period is 1.3 billion. It gradually ramps up over the years because it's 30-year debt, and we need to issue new debt each year. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair. Aloha, Director. On May 21st, I sent you over another county's sewer rate charge plan. Were you able to receive that and review it?
Yes, we saw that. Thank you.
Perfect. Thank you. So for my colleagues, you can look it up. It's just called the San Mateo County Sewer Rate Study. So we did a sewer rate study. I wanted just us to talk through just the two differences that I think are really, really big. So I know that we're very frequently already jumping to how we're going to split up the rates, what the rate increases are going to look like, but we haven't spent considerable time talking through the consent decree, the CIP in detail. And so one of the things that they had on page 17 of their proposal was they had every single CIP listed. So I looked through our CIP and I pretty much parsed out all the ones that you had suggested. In the admin's CIP binder, it is organized by district, so you have to kind of look around for where all the CIP are coming from. And I know that in previous slides, I have them open right now, that we've just said the lump sum monetary amount, but I haven't seen a listed amount of each of these. So on page 17 of the San Mateo report, I'm just going to read a few as an example. Sewer lift station rehab improvement, WWR vehicle upgrades, plant process improvements, digester 2 cleaning. So it itemizes it out. When I read our report, and I'm on page 11 of our rate study, we have about one paragraph that itemizes all these CIPs into 2 sentences. It says approximately 30% of the CIP to be undertaken over the next 10 years is mandated by regulatory agency enforcement actions. The balance is to build new treatment system based on new and anticipated regulatory requirements. So I guess my concern is, and I do support 5 years and maybe even 4, I think we don't need to go into the 10 because some of what you guys are putting into these potential rate increases are anticipated regulatory requirements of which we don't know what 29 will look like or 2030 will look like for the EPA for us. So is there a place where I can find the exact CIPs. And one of the suggestions that I'm going to write to you in a letter is that they have listed down the CIPs because some of them are pay-go projects, which they fund from reserves rather than debt. This is exactly what Councilmember Waters just brought up. So they list out the capital projects, and as they have funds, cash to do it, then they fund this project, then they fund that project. So there's like a way to use reserves and debt, and then there's a way to use cash, and they itemize which projects are going to be pay-go with cash and which projects have to be bonded with debt service. So if you could address those two concerns, which is where's the list of CIPs that we're suggesting in one place, in one, in one chart, and are we going to pursue something that allows us to see which ones we should use with cash and which ones should be debt funded?
Yeah, thank you, Council Member, for that question. The list of all of our CIP projects that is readily available is our 6-year CIP program, and it lists all the projects. I believe in our budget presentation for FY26, there's about 60 new projects listed, but that's just for FY26. But the 6-year CIP program is submitted to as part of the budget process each year. So that lists every project. It does categorize them as well into collection systems, treatment plants, and consent decree, and all the different kinds of projects. So and it goes down for example, for Sand Island, there's multiple projects, going on.
I've seen them. I've seen the Sand Island ones. I've seen the Honolulu ones. There's a couple in Kailua Kaneohe.
Yeah.
How come none of those were listed in these presentations so that we can see how the projects are itemized out and which ones are pertinent now, like within the next 4 years, which ones we can put off for 10 years so that we can see how we can better fund it? Because at this point, as a council, we're now suggesting different percentages. Now we're suggesting different funds to fund the sewer fee through, but it would be great if we parceled it with the actual projects themselves so that you can explain these top 4 are our 4 most urgent ones, and this is what we're going to use to fund it, debt service or cash.
Yeah, so again, that's in the 6-year CIP program. It has all the projects that are on the books. They're either in the phase of planning, design, or construction during the 6-year period. So no projects that don't have one of those 3 phases are listed in the 6-year CIP program. Of course, we do have a CIP program that goes all the way out to 2040, but we do have, all those numbers are readily available. We have the time to do that in terms of asking whether some projects could be delayed, I guess would be during the budget process when we go through the CIP program. I did want to point out that we do use cash, and it does show how much cash we use each year, and so which projects.
What shows cash? Where do I look for that?
The CIP, 6-year CIP shows cash.
So why is
spending
the 6-year CIP not part of the rate study and part of what we're presented so that we can better make decisions?
Yeah, that's a good question. So the rate study is just evaluating what rates are needed to meet the CIP program, and as well as operation and maintenance and debt service. So that's its job. The CIP program and operation and maintenance is part of what we call facilities planning or FAC plans. So for every facility, meaning each wastewater treatment plant and its associated collection system and pump stations, we have a facility plan. And the facility plans are generally look out 20 years, and they're redone about every 5 years. And from the facilities plan, they look at future flows, new requirements, upgrades, repairs, et cetera. And those documents, from that arises the CIP program. And we put those CIP projects from the FAC plans into the 6-year CIP program. So that's where that information exists.
Yeah, I've seen all of it. I'm just asking why we can't look at the need of why we're asking for the residents to pay more, coupled with the rate increase. As I showed you with the San Mateo study, it's part of it. The first 4 pages show exactly why they would need the money they're asking for, and then why the rates are coupled with the need for that. I think what we're really missing in all of these discussions, and I've asked in a written letter, I've asked in hearings, is what if what we're asking for isn't necessary? When I brought up the need for us to challenge the EPA or come up with another way that we fulfill the consent decree, that would save us $1.8 billion. But that has to do with us coming up with the right number so that we are raising the rates in a way that we know we need it. We're anticipating regulatory changes, but we don't know that. This is why we need to have 5 years or less on the increase, because we're now assuming what will come in the future. And even if we are able to meet with the EPA and they do accept an integrated plan, that could decrease this by a lot. Not saying that we wouldn't need an increase. We would need some increase. But do you see what I'm asking for here? I'm asking for the justification to be placed with the rates instead of every conversation we just jump into what rate are we going to increase to, 6 or 9%? Because I would say that there's a fair amount of things that we should think through as far as why we're asking for the rate increase, really hone in on the consent decree, really hone in on what CIP projects are needed within the next 2, the next 4, and then of course later on down the line. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes, it makes sense. I understand what you're saying. We're just not saying the same thing. So we have 2 different processes for figuring out and prioritizing projects. That's not the rate study. So the department has and always has done extensive work on determining what projects are necessary and when. Any projects that can be delayed are delayed. All projects that are on the books are required in order to maintain and upgrade existing facilities to make sure that they don't break. So we try to be proactive instead of running everything until it breaks and then fixing it afterwards, and usually at a much greater cost. So all the projects have gone through a prioritization in order to make it onto the 6-year CIP program. When we say anticipated, that is it's an interesting word. I guess you could think of it a couple of different ways. It doesn't mean imaginary. It means known regulations that are coming up. And sometimes they are projects which we haven't fully designed yet, but we've already had, it's already in our permit, and we've been told 10 years from now, you will have to have UV disinfection in place at Honolulu, for example. So that's an anticipated regulation. It's not regulated yet, but we have to budget for it. It's planning and design and construction. So there are other things where there are regulations in place, for example, that are new, for example, PFAS, dieldrin, and those are things that we know are coming. And so we don't, if it's not something that we actually know about, we can't put a dollar amount and put it into the program yet. So there aren't anything in there which we would label as anticipated, where we just said, okay, we'll throw in $400 million for that thing, that anticipated thing. We don't have anything like that. Everything are real projects based on planning, analysis, and conversations with the regulators.
Understood. I'll have one last comment and then one last question. You know, I do think that in the budget process, I know we're at the very, very tail end, but there are various CIP projects that I have questions about. Obviously, we've gone through iterations of editing other things. So I would question that some of the CIPs that are duplicative or CIPs that maybe we don't need, but we can talk about that at another time. My last question is, has your department prepared something to give to the EPA in regards to us satisfying an integrated plan using our cesspool upgrades or conversions as part of them giving us a waiver for the consent decree?
So thanks for that question. So with respect to the integrated planning process, we've actually been doing it for a while. We did a feasibility study to look at what the possibilities were and to decide whether we should continue with a full integrated planning study. That study did say yes, that there are some good opportunities where it could be beneficial to the program. And so we are proceeding with that. The specifics of what would be in that did, in the feasibility study, it did include, cesspool upgrades. It did include looking at various stormwater projects and to have an impact on water quality. As some of the potentials, the other potentials were with respect to advanced treatment for pesticides like dieldrin and PFAS. So there are some very good potential opportunities where integrated planning could help the department and the city in the long run. And so we are proceeding with that. We won't know, so that, you have to finish the study and then we have to get it approved by EPA. And
so will you be presenting it to the EPA and when?
I'm not sure yet when we would present it to EPA. And again, it would be very closely tied in with the stormwater program. And so we have to figure out projects that would qualify with, on the stormwater side in order to make a whole package. Basically, as part of integrated planning, you say, we want to do this first because it's going to have a better impact on human health and the environment, for example, cesspool replacement or some stormwater projects. And we want to wait and not do these other, perhaps, wastewater projects, which could have less impact. You can't use it to cancel any kind of permit requirement, but you can use it to prioritize and do things in a different order if it's accepted.
Yes, I would just encourage you guys to prioritize this as it's $1.8 billion of what we're asking to raise funds for. This is important because we are footing the bill for the Eva Sewer District Plan out of our pocket. No residents are paying for that. That's a huge investment on the city's part. In fact, it's a applaudable investment because there are many people that wish they could have this conversion, and we're doing it for 1,000 homes. So I think the steps that we're taking forward are things that we should present as part of this, and we shouldn't wait on it, because if we are discussing trying to find money from this pocket and that pocket when we could possibly turn this plan in and figure out how we can get $1.8 billion off, I think that would be a cost savings that would be worth our time. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. We're going to go back to the side. Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for taking all of our questions, both of the directors. My question is, I think, fairly quick. We had the two proposals before us, and I appreciate you guys meeting with us. In the back and forth, and there have been proposed options and numbers. Just so I understand, and if you could get it for clarification, which of these two, if any, do you guys recommend, or what is your stance on both the CD1, the proposed CD2, submitted by Committee Chair Dos Santos-Tam, and then also the proposed CD by Council Chair Waters?
Yeah, Andy Kawano again, Budget and Fiscal Services. We would recommend the Dos Santos-Tam version, 10 years. I know that certain council members would like 5, but what would I think make sense at this point in time is for council members to get together and perhaps approve a 7-year commitment, and here's why. We're only going to be here for about 3.5 more years. The next administration will need time to figure out what's going on. They're probably going to want to do their own study. If you go with 5, you're going to cut them short. They're going to be rushing. I think 7 makes a lot of sense. It's between 5 and 10 because you all have different positions. And for those of you that are going to be around with the next administration, I think you're going to have a much better shot to do a good job for the re-up. Also, we have to pass something. We cannot delay it. If we delay it, as I mentioned earlier, there's a very good chance there's going to be a downgrade, of the credit worthiness of the sewer fund. I think that by acting and by agreeing to increases now will help to, at some point in time in the future, bring the rate charges down. Because one thing that we've learned is that it's probably not good practice to have no increases at all. Going forward, there should be some increase, even CPI increases as we get further out to get beyond, this cash crunch, this financing crunch. We get beyond the crunch. Hopefully, we can, have increases that are more along the lines of CPI, that are not as burdensome for households. And I do agree with Dr. Babcock that his CARES program will help those that are in need, that are lower income, and will help them get through this because we have to do it.
Thank you, Director Kawana. I do appreciate it. And Chair, if I could just again, thank you guys. I know you guys have been working really hard with the council members and taking all the input from our side. I appreciate all that you're doing to be mindful because we're trying to make sure that the community members, our constituents, the people who are going to have to pay and will be affected. That's all of us with the rate increases. But I wanted to thank you, Director Kawana, because it helps me to understand where you're coming from and what we need to look forward to when we're making this decision. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Before we go into round two, I have a few questions. I want to dig in a little bit further, if we could have Director Kawano, into the distinctions between 10 years, which is the original plan. The CD1 is actually just a one-year plan. We've had a little bit of discussion today about 5 years. Councilmember Okimoto queued this up very well. So how does a 5-year proposal fit with our 6-year CIP cycle? Does it give you the flexibility you need to plan for the 6th year of that cycle?
In terms of the CIP cycle, it doesn't fit very well. Actually, that's another good reason to go with 7. It'll tie in to the 6-year cycle, for CIP much better. That's why we came in with 10. The mayor's proposal was at 10 years. And our thought was it helps us go beyond the 6-year cycle. It would also avoid having to go through this process again in 3 years. Because if you go with 5, in 3 years, we're going to be doing this again. And we know we're behind in terms of sewer charge increases. We have to get ahead so that we can level things off sooner down the road. I'm thinking beyond 7 years. We need to do something right now.
Okay. And then this is maybe a question for you or perhaps ENV. We've discussed the customer assistance program. Do you need rulemaking authority to administer said program?
Just based on what we've done elsewhere, where we've had programs where we provide credits, off of the bill, the answer is yeah. I think we probably need to do rulemaking.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's something that we've done in the past.
Okay, and for Director Babcock, is this something you're able to do, stand up rules so that when the increases or there will be decreases in FY26 if we pass my version, but the changes starting at January 1st of 2026, are you going to be ready for that?
Yes, I believe we can be ready for that. We believe we would be, we'll be doing 2 things, getting a contractor, a nonprofit, as well as we can start the rulemaking, I assume, in July.
Okay. And last question about rulemaking, this is a technical question. Are there any other portions of Bill 60, not relating to the fees and charges, that would affect already established admin rules? So things like getting rid of the non-residential strength proposal and replacing that with an overall wastewater disposal charge. Are you going to need to further amend rules?
Chair, I'll have to check on that, but I do not think so.
Okay, thank you. All right, we're going to do a second round of questions, starting with Council Floor Leader Cordero.
Thank you. First off, thank you for highlighting the CIP 6-year in the 6-year CIP budget. I was wondering if only the program under sewage collection and disposal is what the increase will need to go towards.
If I understand the question correctly, it's what the sewer fee increases would be used for. So all sewer fee revenue goes into the cash account and is used for operation, maintenance, debt service, and cash-funded CIP. There's only one other account, which is the bond account, where proceeds from bond sales go into that account, and we sell bonds every year to fund the CIP program. I'm sorry if I misunderstood your
No,
question.
just because ENV has a lot of different programs within the 6-year CIP report, I was just wondering if the sewer fee increase is only going to be going to the sewage collection and disposal program.
Yeah, so the sewer fees are used for all, for all aspects of the sewer enterprise. They're not, so sewer funds, neither of those funds can be used for any other type of thing like refuse or some other city service.
Thank you. Thank you for that clarification. And another clarification, because I know it was mentioned throughout, also in meetings, but maybe twice today, but what is the minimum year increase that we need to set? Is it 5 years, 6 years?
Yeah, thank you. So I don't believe that there's a minimum. In our presentations in the last few years, when we get our credit rating, we make presentations to the credit agencies who determine our credit rating, and so does the general fund as part of the general obligation bonds. In those presentations over the last few years, we've always been shown them a 5-year rate package increase.
Okay,
and so
that's where the 5 years came from.
Yeah, so that's what they're expecting at a minimum.
Okay, got it. So when I heard the 5 years, of course, with the 6-year CIP budget, I definitely thought that would be a happy medium for 6 years because CIP projects, right? And that's what we budget for, too. So it's good that 7 years was mentioned, and I understand that. So in the beginning, when I came in today, I was like, oh, I'm just going to throw out 6 years because that's how we budget. So I'll just throw it out there. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Kiana, Chair Waters, Councilmember Tupola. Any questions? Second round.
Thank you so much, Chair. Director, a follow-up question about the EPA. I just got a notification recently that OHA had received $2 million from Brownfield grants from the EPA, and it was in regards to related cleanups. So I'm never going to get off the horse of us trying to find ways to bring down the amount that we're actually trying to ask the residents for. I think all of us are very concerned that, the tripling or doubling of a bill could potentially push people out of Hawaii. I mean, with all the other fees and inflation and cost of living here, we don't want to add to that. So with that being said, what other ways or grants are you guys going to seek in order for us to also add that to the amount of money? Because say we go with the 5, we go with 6% or whatever the percent is, and you guys are, in your chart, you said this is the shortfall, this is the shortfall. So say we do the 6% and there's a shortfall. Are you guys aware of grants that we can pursue, kind of like how OHA did, where we can supplement that shortfall with other funding besides from ratepayers?
Yeah, thank you for that question. So we do always look for opportunities for getting grant funding or other types of funding. We recently had an evaluation done for us of potential opportunities for additional outside funding. In the regular sort of wastewater treatment industry, there isn't much available for doing essentially standard operations that we're doing. There are opportunities perhaps sometimes for doing something that's sort of above and beyond, something a little different, to perhaps do energy savings or maybe something like that, or a brownfield conversion to make those projects more economically feasible. But we do always look for that. We also participate in the State Revolving Fund program, which is EPA money that is meant to assist states with sewer funding. We do, of course, take very much advantage of that every year. We've kind of shown those numbers of how much money we've gotten, about $55 million a year on average over the past 6 years. Is money that we have to apply for and be selected, to get. It isn't a grant, though. It's a loan. You do have to repay it, but it's essentially very nominal interest, 1/4 to 0.5% interest. So it's almost interest-free money. So that is a big benefit, that we take care of, that we take advantage of. So there, we do continue, to look for those opportunities where they exist, and we will continue to do so.
Let me just give a suggestion. One of the reasons why OHA gets grants like this is because they're a Hawaiian organization, right? And they're applying for these grants based upon what you said, which is special things, right? The federal government's not going to just fund our inability to handle the regular operation and maintenance of our systems, because every city needs help with that. But one of the things in the San Mateo study that they actually went over were disparaged and different areas of ethnicities, populations, rural areas. So it's something to look into, because I would agree with you. When I looked up funding, it would have to qualify for something above and beyond just operation and maintenance. But we do have populations like that on this island. We do have rural populations, USDA populations. And so I would encourage you guys to actually think through the different types of ethnicities, socioeconomic areas. Of course, my area has almost 90% Hawaiians that live in that area. What other agencies could go and apply for that money for us on our behalf to kind of help with those things? Because we're going to have to get creative. I think that we're underestimating what 10 billion is. I'm still very shocked that we're casually talking about 10 billion. The only thing in the whole city and county that ever cost that much was the rail. So to come up with 10 billion, we have to be thinking of every possible avenue, which means we should ask OHA to apply for us, DHHL to apply for us, and see if we can't partner on projects where it would help our funding in those areas that we think that maybe we're going to fall short. So I would just say that in a preemptive manner, that as we know that some of these proposals are going to not get us over the finish line, that there might be other avenues that we get there. And we're at that point where we have to think of every creative solution. Thank you, Director. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
All right, second round of questions on this side. Okay, any other questions? Okay, hearing none, at this time we will go to public testimony. We're going to start with Angela Melody Young, followed by Frank Doyle, followed by Natalie Iwasa.
Aloha, City Council. Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. So when we look at the economic landscape of increased sewer rates and the community at large, what industries are most affected? Hotel and tourism, restaurants, agriculture for plants and irrigation, and housing. So to help focus solutions, to help get to goals, development of sustainable systems for these industries could really help focus this discussion. And so what is working now is the gray water systems in new affordable housing developments and perpetuating in development private-public partnerships for companies to want to work with governmental entities and to develop infrastructure for the county's visions. Tourism, ag, and housing are going to need to have to come up with a comprehensive strategy for sewer water infrastructure to be able to attract international businesses, sustain ag, and develop affordable homes and build a sustainable future. So the CEO from the EPIC system worked in federal public policy before creating the company and continues to influence local, state, and national public policy. So it'd be really interesting to see what Hawaii's government can come up with in terms of creating opportunities for public-private partnerships. Cities can also encourage water conservation through educational campaigns, rebates for efficient appliances, and incentives for landscaping with drought-tolerant plants. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none, up next, Frank Doyle.
Thank you. Good morning, Chairman of Santos-Tam and members of the committee. My name is Frank Doyle. Since entering the consent decree, the city has spent billions of dollars for improvements of our wastewater system and has essentially completed almost all of the requirements of the decree, except for the one largest project, the $2.5 billion for secondary at Sand Island. If secondary treatment was required at Sand Island in 2010, because it really posed some significant public health or environmental concern, that project would have been prioritized immediately. Instead, it comes in last, not needed until 2030. And the reason is there really wasn't any real public health or environmental concern in 2010, and there isn't any today. The EPA mandated secondary treatment in the 210 consent decree based on policy, and not on scientific evidence. So we're asking the council to urge the administration to continue to pursue a discussion with EPA on a consent decree. And if the administration doesn't want to do it, the council should do it. We recommend that the final environmental ENV complete the integrated planning process as quickly as possible so that we can prioritize our projects that need to be into the 26th fiscal year budget. And lastly, we recommend that we suspend all funding for secondary treatment until we have had this sit down with the EPA and that the integrated planning process has been completed. Thank you.
Okay, members, any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Next, we have Natalie Iwasa, and then anyone else here in the chamber. Following Ms. Iwasa, we'll go to remote testifiers, if there are any.
Thank you, Chair, Council members. Natalie Iwasa for the record. First of all, I appreciate the work of ENV BFS, providing you folks with how many pages of documentation. I don't know, I lost track, 4,000, 5,000 pages. Thank you for the clerks for posting that. I support the CD2. I just had a question on the 3% increase over the additional years, whether that's really a fair amount. My main comment, though, is with respect to the EPA, and this is what I envision the EPA would say in a meeting. So you're here today to negotiate the consent decree and potential other requirements, yes. You do realize that the federal government offered grants to Honolulu, and Honolulu did not take them. Yes. And you do also realize that for decades, Honolulu did not abide by the Clean Water Act. Yes, that's true. And you also know that you were sued because of that. You were sued by 3 organizations, and that resulted in the 2010 consent decree, which was signed off by the mayor, the Department of Health, EPA, and other organizations. Yes. And subsequently realized that there, for a 10-year period, the city and the city council did not increase sewer fees. Yes, and you realize that during that period, there was a 2 to 6% inflationary rate every year for that period. And that resulted in the need for higher fees at this point. Yes. And so now you're asking us to give you preferential treatment. Yes. How do you think that's going to go? And with respect to the cesspools, this is not a new issue. The city has not followed up on its federal requirements. And in fact, the city paid a $1.2 million fine for Helemanu Plantation because they didn't upgrade their cesspool in time. So I support the CD2 with increases going at least 10 years because that is the fiscally prudent thing to do. And I also ask you, as I did in my written testimony, to look at Res A. And one other consideration you might put in the bill is to have the city update the city council at the 5-year mark, maybe the 6-year mark, because I understand that people don't understand financial statements. This information, a lot of it is in the financial statements each year. I'm almost done. So you might ask them to do that kind of update. So thank you for allowing me to go a bit over my time. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much. Ms. Iwasa, thank you for your testimony today. I love the creativity and I like how much you come here. I just wanted to clarify that after 2010, when the consent decree was signed, that in 2019, there was an EIS done about the secondary containment. And it actually said that the upgrade would emit 30,000 metric tons of CO2 equivalent per year, doubling the carbon emissions of the plant itself. So that was different. I'm just saying from the time it was signed till then, that 2019 EIS changed the game because what they thought was going to keep the water clean then had a huge impact on the environment that they weren't expecting. Then in 2019, the Clean Water Act was amended. And so people, not just us, there were 27 cities that did integrated plans. 27 cities came up with better plans that the EPA then accepted as amendments to their consent decree and permit requirements, because they had to amend things because after EISs were done based upon the EPA's suggestions, they were found to be more pollutant to the environment. So I would say that they're actually open to these and they have been proposed by many cities, but I did love everything you're saying. I hear what you're saying, but I do think that some of the things that have changed since 2010 till now have been proven in other cities that we could follow. And I would agree with you. There's a lot of money that the Honolulu has been offered and that we might have missed, but I think we should stop now and continue to take advantage of all of those grants. But thank you, Ms. Iwasa. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. May I just comment on that? So it's great that other cities are doing this, but I feel that when a municipality acts irresponsibly, and in my opinion, not increasing the fees, not even discussing it for 10 years is irresponsible.
Agreed. Thank you, Ms. Iwasa. I agree. I just wanted to address the clean water part. Thank you, Chair.
Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. We do have a testifier or somebody online with a phone number ending in 747. To this individual, did you want to testify on Bill 60, the sewer rate proposal? And if so, please proceed.
Yes, I just want to say something from the viewpoint of a customer or a user. I'm Robert Gould in Kaneohe, and I don't mind rate increases as necessary. I'm willing to pay as much as necessary for what I use in terms of water and sewer, but I do not like paying for what I don't use. And the current method of charging for usage of water is faulty, and it causes us to pay for, in our case, significant amount of money every year for water that does not go down the sewer. The simple answer to that is measure the water that goes down the sewers by measuring the water that goes into the house. The Department of Environmental Services plan of letting you measure irrigation water does not make sense. And I just like to address the billing system in addition to this other question that's going on now. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for Mr. Gould? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Clerks, is there anyone else standing by either here in the chambers or online waiting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing none, members, we are in discussion. Chair Waters.
Thank you. Bill 60, as originally proposed by ENV, would increase sewer fees for our residents by 110%. And as currently proposed for people using 6,000 gallons or more, 100%. For those using 9,000 gallons, 128%. And for those using 15,000 gallons, 172%. ENV proposed this because our wastewater system needs some serious upgrades. Those needs have been ignored by prior councils and administrations. Over the past 27 years, since 1999, the sewer rates were only increased about half the time, 15 out of the last 27 years. Prior councils and administrations ignored the pressing needs for nearly half of the 27 years. Even accounting for the COVID years, that is not acceptable. They left the difficult choices for us and our residents. We must take on the mantle of leadership and do the right thing. The system is designed to be self-sufficient. The rate should cover all the needs of the system. However, due to the consent decree and the lack of regular rate increases, we either have to raise rates dramatically or find alternatives. We have funded the wastewater system through revenue generated by the sewer fees. For large projects, we issued bonds, which are then paid back over the life of the project. The theory for funding long-term wastewater upgrades by issuing long-term bonds is to spread the cost across generations that will use these facilities. It's often called intergenerational equity. Since the promise of intergenerational equity was not fulfilled, we are now required to increase the fees and look for alternative ways to fund the needs of the wastewater system. We must fulfill the obligations that the city has while reducing the burden on our residents. If we want future generations to stay here, we cannot unfairly saddle them with our debts. Let's look at the situation we face today. If we didn't take on any new obligations and only had to pay for our current obligations, we would only need a minimal increase in fees to meet a small 10-year shortfall. But our wastewater system does need to be maintained in good working order, which includes making needed repairs and upgrades, including $1.8 billion for secondary treatment at Sand Island and $5.1 billion in system-wide improvements. As a council, we've asked the administration to discuss with the EPA removing the need for secondary treatment or extending the term of the consent decree. We need to extend the sewer fees, but not for the full 10 years, as requested, to give us time to work with the EPA and to find alternatives to funding the wastewater system. My CD, or at least the idea behind the CD for Bill 60, would increase the rates more moderately at 6.75% for 5 years. By adopting these new rates, we would fulfill our current obligation and provide funding for necessary system work. As a city, we need to look at ways to bring the cost of our sewer fees down. Extending for 5 years gives us the stability and with the bond markets need, while giving us time to work with the EPA and to find alternatives to funding the wastewater system. One of the alternatives is to reduce the amount of bonds we take out for the sewer system. The bonds that were issued in 2025 cost us about 58% in interest and fees. So for every $100 we borrow, we must pay back $158. That adds up. For the Senior Series 2025 bonds, we're going to pay $111 million in interest to borrow $190 million. So that's $190 million. It'll cost us a total $302 million. According to the sewer rate study done by ENV, the primary component of the revenue requirement increases is debt service. It is projected for FY 2025, 50% sewer fund required revenue would be used simply to pay for our debt service. By 2035, 70% of those revenues will be used to cover our debt service. If we look at reducing the amount we need to borrow, we can reduce our costs. We will still need to issue bonds, but any bond we can avoid issuing saves us an average of approximately 48% in costs. This effectively reduces the cost of projection by 48%. In conclusion, we will need to increase our sewer rates. We must pay for our existing financial obligations and upgrade the system, but we must consider all the alternatives we have to fund the system so that we don't unfairly saddle our children with this debt. To do less would continue the abdication of our responsibility of prior councils. So while my CD is flawed, Mr. Chair, I suggest either we postpone the decision-making so that I could amend the CD. That's option 1. Option 2, we could amend my CD today. Or option 3, I propose a hybrid. We take your CD, but we only do it for 5 years. Actually, I prefer that last suggestion. That way we can vote on it today. You know, initially I was worried about this bill plus the budget bills on third reading on June 4th. But if we can take care of this today, do a 5-year plan, but adopting the rates that you proposed, I would be in support. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Floor Leader Cordero and then Vice Chair Weyer.
Thank you. First off, I would like to liken this to how, DHHLM was presented to the council, like during the budget process. And I know this was presented to us in October 31, 2024. But I still feel like that, we've known what we needed to do for a while. We've known the possible rates and studies, and I don't know specifically, we could have been talking about rates for the past few years now since the mayor and majority of the council came on board. So I just feel like we continue to be put into a corner and with a gun held to our heads to make decisions to do these things. And so, of course, I support that we need to push this forward and do the sewer increase so that it supports one of the major projects for sewer, which happens to be in my district in Sand Island. And so first off, I understand that. Secondly, I do stand at looking at 6 years because that's where we proposed our CIP and our CIP projects, as I mentioned earlier today in my second round of questioning. And that's where I stand. Thank you.
Thank you. Vice Chair Weyer.
Thank you, Chair. And just wanted to first model you and ENV and, of course, the rest of the city administration for the work that's gone into drafting the CD. I mean, I fully support Budget Chair's CD too. It sounds like there's some disagreement, so I mean, I guess I'll have to defer on the final outcome, but my hope would be that we can vote and pass that out of full council. I think what I'm happy with is that it seems like as a body we're extremely serious about reducing the impact on our local families, and I think that's what this entire conversation has reflected, and it reflects the interest of every council member wanting to ensure that we don't have any negative impact on the finances of our families. Beyond this bill, you know, that's why we talked about the low income tax credit. So we codified the resilience fund to get those funds directly into the community, whether it's for cesspool or water, you know, water efficiency. So I think we're all on board, and that's why the restructuring in the CD2 that shifted how usage is incorporated into charge so that you can actually reduce your bill by using less water, and then at the same time understanding the exact parameters of the rebate program haven't been decided yet. And we just started the process as a city of setting up how we're going to use the resilience fund. I think there's a lot of opportunity to reduce it even more. And so with that in mind, I do think it's important for us to also rely on or fall back on our fiduciary responsibility to the city and the understanding that we have to make difficult decisions that protect the long-term finances of this city, because that affects people's lives, that affects how we can do projects. And so I think it's all one big conversation, right? How to reduce the impact on our families as much as we can while keeping the city in a fiscally stable place. What I like about the 10-year process is I think it's more transparent for the community in light of what our current CIP plans are and regulatory burdens. I think we can all agree that this has been a decades-long problem that past administrations have dealt with in good faith, understanding the increasing regulatory burdens. Sand Island Treatment's a prime example of that. So we know this is no one individual's fault. We know this is reflective of just the reality that we're dealing with as a community. And I think my concern is that we have so many other problems that are growing and getting worse, our housing crisis. Like, I feel like just resolving this, creating a stable plan, having the 10 years gives transparency to the community about what our financial obligations are going to be, and then gives us time to assess how are we going to bring that down, whether it's expanding the rebate program, better utilizing the resilience fund. But of course, I know reasonable minds can disagree, but that's just kind of what's crossed my mind. So mahalo, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Further discussion?
Chair?
Yes, Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, I just wanted to, thank all the comments that have been given so far. Chair Waters' effort to come up with creative proposals has been greatly appreciated. You know, Councilmember Cordero's concern, especially because Sand Island is in her area. I think for me, I have all the other ones. Honolulu and everything else you can think of is in my district. So of course, concerns are there for me as well. I do thank Councilmember Weyer on his continuous echoing of the needs and I guess burden that is going to fall upon the residents. I'm in agreement that we need to have some increase. I'm in agreement. We need to have some increase because we can't go with zero. I do think that the 5 years is reasonable. I think coming back at it after 5 years, based upon discussions with the EPA, would benefit us greatly. I would like to say a little bit more about the consent decree because I do think that, we had a testifier, Emma, from Department of forestry from DLNR, and she spent a significant amount of time talking to different entities, including the Sierra Club, getting everyone on board with an integrated proposed plan. And this integrated plan, again, has been accepted by many municipalities, and I think we can make headway with that. I do think that for the CIPs that I have concerns with, and I think it's unfortunate that we can't talk about that at the same time, but you know, there is 120 million put in the CIP for the EVA pump station, and it says that it's for the consent decree. As far as I was concerned, those ones were done. There was money put in for a 14th floor at FMB, even though we have a brand new building in Honolulu for ENV. We also have funds in there that are supposed to treat dealdrin, which there is questions whether or not we can even treat that. There are funds that are put in CIP that are pushed out to 2029, which kind of begs the question of if these are important or not, similar to what was brought up by Mr. Doyle. If some of these are being pushed out that far, how is it infecting the environment? So I just think that it'd be wise if we take this time, if we do pass a 5-year, to actually look through all of this carefully and try to determine if some of these things that may have been required 15, 20 years ago have now changed. Have EISs now suggested better practices? Have our investments, including the Climate Resiliency Fund, really signified that we are going towards better clean water practices and that our city is taking those strides? So with that being said, I do support Chair Waters' version of the bill, the 5 years. But of course, you know, I'm not on this committee. I think, Chair, you've done a wonderful job in trying to listen and entertain many proposals. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, further discussion. Councilmember Kiaina.
I would support a 5-year version of your CD2. And just given all the dialogue that has occurred, first of all, we have 3.5 years left. We can continue to have a dialogue. If we need to amend it to whether it be 6, 7, or the 10 years, we will have that. I think for myself and others who are discomforted, you know, we don't disagree with the need, and I've appreciated all this dialogue, but for me, 5 years is a measured approach. Again, we can always open that door if all of the issues that we've raised moves forward, and so I think that's a good approach.
Thank you. Members, further discussion. Vice Chair Nishimoto.
Thank you, Chair. And thank you for all your hard work on this bill. I know we've had discussions, it feels like 5 or 6 times on this bill, which is new for me. It's definitely a lot of information. I've heard loud and clear from my constituents that the 10-year plan is too onerous for them to take. It is too onerous for me to take. But I think the 5-year plan, your 5-year plan, makes a lot of sense. It gives us a chance to reevaluate it in 5 years, which we'd probably do anyway. But I think, you know, I support, I think it's the majority of the committee in adopting your 5-year plan. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, further discussion. Okay, seeing none, what I would like to propose, and thank you for all of the discussion. So just as a reminder, what we've done over the past few drafts of this bill is we've moved the base rate calculation versus the volumetric calculation so that folks who are saving water, folks who are using as little water as possible, folks who are trying to do the right thing would end up paying less because they're not using as much water versus those who are doing more. The purpose of this was to make the system a little bit more equitable, to incentivize conservation, and for the very highest water users, I do believe that they need to be paying a little bit more for the privilege of using that much water and that much sewer. And so what we did with this CD2 version is we changed the 9% option to one that steps up more gradually, starting with the 6% option. It creates a flatter curve over the course of the proposal. And again, it changes the originally proposed 50-50 base rate versus volumetric for a 40-60 split. And so this keeps the base rate lower for everybody and creates a system that's a little bit more equitable. Again, if you use more water, you're going to pay a little bit more for that privilege. And so what does that look like for families right now? Whether it's a 10-year proposal or 5-year proposal, for a 2,000 gallon a month family, the proposal that we have before us today would save that 2,000 gallon a month family $265.26 versus what they're paying right now through June 30th of 2026. So between now and June 30th of 2026, over the course of, $18 a month or whatever it is, it's $265. For a 4,000 gallon a month family between now and June 30th of 2026 versus what you're paying right now, not the original proposal, what you're paying right now, their bills would go down and you'd save $95.16 through June 30th of 2026. And I think that this is something really important because, there's a lot of folks out there who are struggling. And if we can help them scrimp and save and do the right thing, I think that's a huge benefit. For families using more, 6,000 gallon a month family, even in the first 2 years, they're saving money versus the original proposal that came in from the administration under the 9% option. And so I think that we can, while nobody wants to raise sewer fees at all, this is how we got ourselves into the problem, as Chair Waters mentioned, we have to do something that's responsible. And so the most responsible thing that we can do is to change the base rate versus volumetric and keep at the administration. To Councilmember Tupola's point, we need to keep trying to get some answers and accountability, make sure that they're looking at every plan, every which way. And so what I'm going to propose is to accept my CD2 version and make 2 changes. First, adding rulemaking authority for ENV for the Customer Assistance Program in Section 5. That's the first thing. The second thing that I'd like to propose is that we shave off the last 3 years. So in each of the tables in Section 5 and anywhere else in the bill where these references may be, that we eliminate references to FY32, FY33, and FY34. That gets us through a full CIP cycle, which I think is important for their planning. And by shaving this off, it's not quite a 5-year plan. It ends up being a 6-year plan because there's raises in there's changes in FY 26, 27, 28, 29, 30, and 31, but that gets us through a 6-year cycle. I know there's strong desire for 5 years, but I wanted to ask if we can get to 6 years so we can get through a full CIP cycle. And I know it's not ideal, it's not great, but this gets us through that cycle, and then we can deal with what happens in the out years thereafter. What I will note is we do have a provision that there is a 3% annual increase in the out years beyond where the table ends. And so to the extent that the original proposal wanted to increase the last few years by, say, 6%, the gap between 3% and 6% isn't very much in those out years. And so I think we can come up with something a little bit more reasonable in those out years if we eliminate the references to 2032, 2033, and 2034 in each of the tables in Section 5 and wherever else that may be. So that's my recommendation for now. I'm looking at OCS to make sure that they got that rulemaking authority and then eliminating the last 32, 33, and 34 in each of the tables. Okay, now we can have an interesting discussion. Any discussion on eliminating the last 3 years in the tables? That gets us through one CIP cycle. Councilmember Tupola.
Okay, so you're suggesting to go with the version, but for 6 years?
Yeah, effectively, yes.
Is it 7?
It ends up being 6 years because there is an additional step starting January 1st of 2026 because the original bill, I think the administration, when they introduced this, was hoping that we would get it out for FY, or starting for the fiscal year starting July 1st. But there's an interim step starting in FY 26, but it ends in 2031.
So there's an interim step, and therefore the increases would just be over the 6 years?
Yes.
And then it would start at your amount of 6 and then 7.5, 8.5?
Effectively, that's the net effect overall of all ratepayers. Yes. So it would be
So-
2030, 2026, 7, 8, 9, 2030, and 2031.
The 2031, you'd keep it at the 9.
2031 would be the rates in the table. Yeah, we're just eliminating the last 3 rows of each table.
So it'd be the 6%, 7.5, 8.5, then 999.
That's the net effect, yes.
Yes, the net effect.
Yeah. But again, if you're at the low end of using water,
Different,
it's different, versus
yeah.
somebody at the higher end.
Okay, thank you, Chair.
Yeah. Any other discussion? Okay. We also have one last chance on June 4th to address this, so I'll note that. Chair Waters.
Thank you. Just to be clear, though, for those using 6,000 gallons per month or less, and again, this is people doing laundry 3 to 4 times a week, moderate dishwashing, occasional long showers, typically with 2 kids, their bill will go up from currently $99 to $160. And those using 9,000 gallons per month, which is the typical user, family with 2 kids, a dog, maybe in-laws, laundry daily, washing dishes daily, that'll go up from $110 to $204, according to the schedule, just so everybody's on the same page. I mean, that's really what we're voting on. But appreciate your willingness to work with everybody, but I'm curious what the rest of the committee feels like.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Weyer.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I definitely would support the 6. Of course, like I said, my ideal would have been 10 because I feel like it's more transparent with the community about the actual financial obligations that the city owes. But if we're going to go with 6, that at least outlines the expectation and gives us time to work on measures as a body to reduce, right? I think, I'm hopeful maybe we'll get a whole lot of bills on other ways to maybe reduce the financial burden on our families, because I know that's everyone's priority. But just, we also have to be honest and straightforward with the community about what our actual obligations are to them to protect the city finances. So thank you.
Thank you, members. Floor to Leader Cordero.
Thank you. I was just wondering, because I know that was mentioned about the EPA, what the timeline would be regarding that. And I know one of our testifiers mentioned that the scenarios of being rejected, but I just want to know if, I was already thinking of certain reporting requirements for ENV and BFS to the council, but do we have a timeline on that? Oh, I don't know. Anybody? Yeah.
Sure. Chair, would you like me to try and answer that?
Yes, please.
Yeah, okay. Roger Babcock, Department of Environmental Services. So the timeline, there's a couple of things. There's the integrated plan, which is, the discussion is kind of importantly kind of hinges on that. Generally, you'd need to kind of propose something, in lieu of, of having some other, benefit that's more important. And so it's going to take some time. We just, the funding for the full integrated plan is in FY26. So those funds become available July 1st. We can select a consultant and start that work. But it's probably about a 2-year project to complete that. There's a lot of integration with other, with other agencies and stuff. We might be able to finish a little faster. But we can initiate discussions with EPA prior to that to let them know that we're doing it. The Department of Health, by the way, was involved with our integrated planning feasibility study, so they knew about it. They supported it as an effort. And so, and of course, other agencies that are involved in the city with stormwater and would also already also know about the integrated plan. So we can get started pretty quickly, but it will take some time to put together a solid plan that then we could go forward with and say, this is what we really propose to do, and figure out all the finances and all that kind of stuff. So unfortunately, it will take time. We can't do it super fast.
Okay, thank you. And are there current reporting requirements to the council and approval requirements?
reporting requirements with respect to?
About your discussions with the EPA. Just want to know, so when I do propose it for the body to adopt or not, it would be, I just need to know. I don't want it to be duplicative.
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, Councilmember Kiana.
Thank you. Thank you, Councilmember Cordero, on the question. I just would recommend to the administration, first of all, Chair, I will be supporting your proposed amendment. With regard to interfacing at the federal level on anything related to this matter, I highly recommend that we do so gingerly and that we involve the managing director's office. They are on the throes of, I believe, finalizing or awarding an RFP for a DC lobbyist. I think because of how important this matter is and the financial impact to the city's budget, that we have to be well coordinated, including with Hawaii's congressional delegation. And I actually think that this might warrant a permitted interaction group on this matter moving forward. And the reason I say this is because there are several members of the council who would like to be actively involved as opposed to just sitting here and getting periodic reports. So just wanted to throw that out. But I also just wanted to caution that how important this is, and you need not, all you have to do is turn on the TV and figure out what's going on. So this is not a time for a singular director to just go up there and say, oh, we got this project, and it has to be done collectively with the mayor's office, as well as hopefully all of the other stakeholders that I talked about. And then I just wanted to throw out the idea about a pig. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, further discussion? Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto.
Thank you, Chair. I appreciate your proposed amendment. For me, my preference would have been to use Chair Waters' 5-year proposal, but also incorporate your volumetric rates into that proposal. You've given us a different proposed amendment. I do have some concerns with 6 years, so I probably will be going with reservations so I can look at the number and how that affects over 6 years. But I do appreciate your work on this.
Thank you. And again, we do have a full council meeting on June 4th, and I think there, to the extent that we need to do further little tweaks to make sure that we're landing the plane in exactly the right place, I would certainly welcome that. And of course, we'll have a robust discussion then. Any further discussion on the recommendation to amend as discussed? Chair Waters.
Thank you. Two things. One, I believe Board of Water Supply needs some time before implementation. When we were discussing this 2 months ago, they asked about September. I'm not sure what date they need now. It sounded like they need 3 or 4 months. But I just want to remind members what we're looking at basically is a 6%, 7.5 the next year, followed by 8.5, then 9%, 9%, 9%, 9%, which is quite a bit. But just so that we're all on the same page. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. And to that point, that's why the interim step is January 1st of 2026 to give them time to implement. Councilmember Tupola.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I just want to, again, I know that we can vote on this at full council, but I do echo the sentiments of Councilmember Nishimoto. I think that keeping it to the 5, I did also not mention that something that we can discuss and maybe in the Executive Management Committee is that there is Water Infrastructure Finance Innovation Act program, which actually gives low interest loans. I did ask the former E&V director why they hadn't used those, whether or not we should be using those. So I'm throwing it out there because I do think the 9% is a lot at the end to do year after year. So I think it's a gradual increase, but I am concerned that those last 3 years of 9% are going to be heavy for a lot of people. And possibly, by that time, we might be able to get some water infrastructure finance funds. We might be able to get some grants. To Councilmember Kiaina's point, we could possibly have a lot better work being done in DC if we had a lobbyist. So I just think we need to be mindful of those last 3 years of 9%. Thank you, Chair.
Okay. Thank you. Members, further discussion? Okay, seeing no further discussion, again, the recommendation was to utilize my proposed CD2 with the changes to add rulemaking authority for ENV for the Customer Assistance Program in Section 5, and then eliminate references to years 2032, 2033, and 2034 in each and every table in Section 5 of the bill, and then making a corresponding change to the 3% escalation at the end of Section 5. So we'll take, are there any objections to that recommendation? Are there any reservations to the recommendation?
Reservations.
Noting the reservations of Councilmember Nishimoto and Councilmember Cordero, the recommendation has been adopted. We'll then recommend that the Bill 60 of 2024, CD2, be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion, objections, or reservations to the recommendation to report out for third reading?
Objections.
Noting the objection of Councilmember Cordero, this is a recommendation to report out for third reading. We're going to do a roll call of the committee. So Councilmember Cordero?
No.
Councilmember Kiaina?
Aye.
Councilmember Weyer?
Aye.
Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto?
Reservations.
Noting reservations, and then Chair votes aye. So there being the sufficient number of ayes, so ordered. Okay, thank you, members. This has been a weighty discussion, and again, we have June 4th still going. For those of us here in the chamber, there is a choir from the Philippines who will be performing in the chamber at noon, or sorry, performing in the courtyard at noon, and so so that they don't disturb our proceedings, we'll take a short break at noon to allow them to perform, and then we'll come back. It's also possible that we can power through the remaining items. So let's begin with that. Agenda item number 2 is Bill 40 of 2025, CD1, addressing fees, charges, and fines. Members, we do have a posted proposed CD2 submitted by myself. The amendments are listed on the agenda. We have with us Director Andy Kawano.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. We have no comment. We're in support of the measure.
Members, any questions for the Director of BFS? Okay, seeing none. Clerks, is there anyone here in the chambers who'd like to testify on Bill 40, or anyone online who'd like to testify on Bill 40?
Chair, there are none.
Okay. There being no testifiers either in person or remotely, members, we are in discussion on Bill 40. Sensing no discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 40 of 2025, CD1, be amended to the posted CD2 identified as OCS 2025-0386/5/20/2025 3:42 p.m. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Seeing none, the bill has been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 40 of 2025 CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Members, now we're on agenda item number 3. This is Bill 36 of 2025, addressing economic and revenue downturns and emergency situations. Members, we have a posted proposed CD1 submitted by Councilmember Weyer. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda. We also have a hand-carried CD1 that's been proposed by Councilmember Tupola. Copies of that have been provided to all of you. I'd like to ask each of the introducers of the various CD1s to explain their proposals, and I'll start with Councilmember Weyer.
Thank you, Chair. I defer to what's posted, and with Chair's allowance would be withdrawing so I could support the hand-carried model.
Okay, in that case, the hand-carried CD1. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you so much, Chair, and thank you to the introducer. You know, I offer this to the committee and to the introducer as for their consideration. I do think with the amount of reservations and no votes that we had, that there needed to be some level of transparency given to us as a council to ensure that we are being responsible with taxpayer dollars. I'm proposing amendments to Bill 36 that clarify no funds may be expended without council approval by resolution except in limited cases. The mayor may spend up to $500,000 without prior approval, but must notify notify council within 24 hours and submit a formal report within 7 days. Anything above that requires a vote of the council. We're also requiring a detailed expenditure plan with a line item budget justification and evaluation metrics. That plan must be filed with the clerk and posted online at least 6 days before any related council meeting in compliance with sunshine law requirements. Finally, any expenditure must be publicly reviewed within 30 days with the mayor and their designee presenting a full report to the council. I believe that this will help to provide guardrails and public oversight. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. Very good explanation. Clerks, is there anyone who's registered to testify on this item or standing by to testify on this item? Okay, we have one in-person testifier, Angela Melody Young.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, wishing to comment on behalf of CARES. So I actually have a question. If someone can clarify if one or more conditions means, for example, 1A and 2B, or the entirety of one and also the entirety of another number. So 1A and B and 2A, B, and C are the qualifying conditions to activate in the case of an emergency. So because then I would propose the amendment for C to read, the mayor may file a notice of necessary action needed to address the protection of health, safety, and welfare of all citizens due to an emergency that may cause funds to be depleted to be able to provide for necessary services. Because the amendment as written has a provision for authorization for the mayor in the event that the emergency has already occurred and the funds are already depleted. But then when I was listening to the council's discussion, it was to prepare in case of an emergency. Ideally, the mayor should authorize by notice prior to the emergency, causing the funds to be depleted, not when it's already depleted, right? So to ensure financial stability for all citizens.
Okay, members, any questions for the testifier? Okay, hearing none. Is there anyone else here in the chamber who'd like to testify? Clerks, is there anyone remotely who's waiting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we are in discussion on this proposal. Floor Leader Cordero.
Thank you. Thank you to both the introducer and the recommendations from Council Vice Chair Weyer as well as Councilmember Tupola. Chair, I would like to just get clarification on where the proposed exceeding of $500,000 came from the proposed CD1.
Okay, that's a good question. Maybe we can pick that back up in discussion. Well, unless, does anyone have the answer?
Are we in discussion?
Oh yeah, sorry, we're in discussion, sorry.
Okay.
Maybe I'll defer to the introducer then.
Yeah, we actually got it by studying what other cities do in times of emergencies. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, Vice Chair Weyer.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to also mahalo Councilmember Tupola for the work that went into the draft. I know there are a bunch of different ideas put out there, and so I'm happy to support and appreciate the effort. Mahalo.
Okay, further discussion, members. One note that I will make on the hand-carried CD1 is on page 3, subsection C, it requires the council or committee to review within 30 days. I'll note that in December, if the mayor were to make such an expenditure immediately after the agenda deadline for our December council meeting, we might not have a council meeting early enough in January to hit the 30 days. So would there be any objection to doing 45 days? Of course, the rest of the year, we would definitely pick it up.
In favor.
Vice Chair Weyer. Oh.
Sorry, not to jump in.
Sorry, Vice Chair Weyer and then Councilmember Tupola, sorry.
I was just going to say, I'd be supporting, I think, and deferring to the chair on that. I mean, my preference typically is to allow automatic passage unless the council chooses to intervene, similar to how we do the reprogramming, but I know this is a different format, so would support the 45 days.
Okay, thank you. Councilmember Tupola.
Same, thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you. That way we're not forced to come back. And admin, don't submit these on December 4th. Thank you. Okay, any further discussion on this before I make my recommendation? Okay, the chair recommends that Bill 36, 2025 be amended to the hand-carried CD1 identified as OCS 2025-0447/5/23/2025, 4:30 p.m. with the oral amendment that on page 3, the 30 calendar day requirement become a 45-day calendar day requirement. Any discussion, objections, or reservations to the amendment to the recommendation to amend to CD1? Sensing none, the chair then recommends that Bill 36 of 2025 CD1 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion, objections, or reservations?
Objections.
Okay, noting the objection of Councilmember Kiaina, that triggers a roll call vote. Councilmember Cordero?
Aye.
Councilmember Kiaina?
No.
Councilmember Weyer?
Aye.
Councilmember Vice Chair Nishimoto?
WR.
WR, and chair votes aye. Okay, there being the sufficient number of ayes, the recommendation to pass out on third reading has moved forward. Thank you, everyone. Agenda item number 4 is Bill 18, 2024, CD1, removing ordinances relating to pound masters. Do we have with us the Director of Parks and Recreation? If not, we have Director Kawano.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. On behalf of Parks and Recreation and BFS, we have no comment. We're in support of the repeal of the Pound Master's office.
Okay, members, any questions for the Director of BFS? Okay, seeing none. Clerks, is there anyone registered to testify or standing by to testify on Bill 18? Okay, we have Angela Melody Young here in person. If there's anyone else, please go to the microphone. Please proceed.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of ROAR, Rescue of Animal Rights. In favor of the law, voting yes. So this law is outdated. I'm going to highlight a few interesting facts about animal rescue and the need for updated ordinance. It affects veterinarian care and the appropriation of funds allocated to such things like the Humane Society to do what the city can't do. So with public-private partnerships, it's a company providing for a city's goal, and the city provides the funds for it. So to be able to spay and neuter and to administer trap and neuter programs is a strategy to bring down the number of overpopulation of cats and dogs as a community concern. And so nowadays, though, as we see that this bill is outdated, and so are some of the build out of facilities and the traditional methods of relating to animals. Nowadays, we have the Humane Society and cat coffee shops. And so we see human and animal relationships are getting better over time. And so the law needs to be mandated to be updated. And also, because if the law is not updated, for example, they have animal cruelty statutes relating to cockfighting that doesn't get implemented. So to kind of create a standard for the debate of the community and the council to advance topics in animal rescue and veterinary facilities is very important. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none, clerks, is there anyone else standing by either in the chambers or remotely to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing none, members, we are in discussion on Bill 18, 2024 CD1. Okay, there being no discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 18, 2024 CD1 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion, objections, or reservations to that recommendation? Sensing none, so ordered. Now, agenda item number 5. This is Bill 11 of 2025 CD1, providing for the strict regulation of electronic amusement devices to protect public health, safety, and welfare. Members, Bill 11 of 2025 CD1 is a consecutive referral that was first heard and amended by the Committee on Public Safety and Customer Services. Members, we have posted proposed CD2 submitted by Councilmember Tupola. For your information, the amendments are listed on the agenda. And Councilmember Tupola, if you'd like to introduce your proposed CD2.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to briefly go over that it clarifies the definition of available to the public, adds police chief as an alternate name for chief of police, as both terms are used throughout the bill, removes the defined term law enforcement officer, and makes any miscellaneous technical and non-substantive amendments. We are kind of down to the finish line with this. Again, members, this is from the gambling task force, the game room task force. So we are just kind of combing through it, working actively with the prosecutors and HPD to make sure that this is the correct verbiage, and of course, thank the chair for his work as well.
Okay, thank you. We are now in the testimony phase. We have with us, first was Natalie Owasu, who registered in person. Is Natalie? Yes. And then anybody else who'd like to testify, please line up after Natalie, and then we'll go to remote testimony. Natalie Iwasa.
Thank you, Natalie Wassa, for the record. I did submit written testimony. I just ask that you be really careful with this definition. I do appreciate the amendment to it and the insertion part of the definition. But as you know, today there are so many different technologies and tap to play and different things, scanning codes and that kind of thing. So I wasn't sure. It seemed like it could be potentially, there could potentially be a loophole there for some devices. And then as well, there might be some unintended consequences with respect to kids who are just playing and they get these promotional toys from different places and they have to make contact with devices. So just asking you to look at that definition very carefully. Thank you.
Okay. Members, any questions for the testifier? Okay. Angela Melody Young.
Angela Melody Young, testifying on behalf of CARES. So wishing to comment, cracking down on electronically amusing devices operating game rooms will ensure safety of our neighborhoods. So I'd like to just comment that the definition Gambling Devices Act of 1962 can be referenced because it amends the Johnson Act of 1951, which is in the United States Code, Chapter 15. And so it provides a very comprehensive way to define gambling devices, which includes the new electronic devices. And it also establishes registration requirements, labeling standards, and penalties for violation, while also allowing states to enact their own laws regarding gambling devices within their own jurisdiction. So I feel like what's proposed may be something that the council came up with, but then to kind of raise the standard to the federal level could help with improvements. And also, last comment, it refers to Hawaii Revised Statute Chapter 712A. I would then go to check it out again because the Omnibus Criminal Forfeiture Act, the seizure of property for criminal forfeiture, has been updated this year, and it's currently transmitted to the governor's desk.
Thank you. Members, any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none. Clerks, is there anyone else here in the chambers who'd like to testify or anyone remotely?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, seeing none. We also have HPD here. Is there anyone from HPD who would like to testify? If not, it's okay. No? Yes? Okay. And then do we have anyone from the prosecuting attorney's office? Okay, HPD it is.
Hi, I'm Sergeant Leland Qureshi from the Gambling Division, and I'm here to take any questions if you have any.
Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, just one for me, so HPD is in support.
We are willing to enforce.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you. Seeing no questions, is there anyone from the prosecuting attorney's office? If not, that's all right. Members, we're in discussion on Bill 11 of 2025, CD1. Okay. Members, the chair recommends that Bill 11 of 2025, CD1, be amended to the posted CD2 identified as OCS 2025-0234/3/25/2025 9:58 a.m. Any discussion, objections, or reservations to the recommendation to amend? Seeing none, the bill's been amended to a CD2. The chair then recommends that Bill 11 of 2025 CD2 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion, objections, or reservations to the recommendation to report out for third reading? Hearing none, so ordered. Next up is agenda item number 6, Bill 12 of 2025 CD1, addressing public nuisances relating to gambling activities throughout the city and county of Honolulu. Members, Bill 12 of 2025 CD1 is a consecutive referral that was first heard and amended by the Committee on Public Safety and Customer Services. We have with us Honolulu Police Department. Any comments from HPD? Okay. Seeing none, that's all right. We'll proceed with testimony. Clerks, is there anyone here in the chambers who'd like to testify or anyone standing by online who'd like to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we are in discussion on Bill 12. Councilmember Tupola.
Thank you, Chair. I just wanted to thank yourself and your staff, I think we both have seen lots of different iterations of what we thought would be effective to protect our communities. That is the number one thing for me in my rural areas and little neighborhoods, is having these commercial operations that have a high amount of cash and have a high amount of weapons right next to homes, next to schools. So it's unfortunate, but this bill is going to help HPD to have a possible tool that they can use to protect our neighborhoods. And so I just want to thank the council for their support on this. As it might not touch every community, I can reassure you that our communities will be very grateful. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. And I want to thank you, Councilmember Tupola, for your work on this, as well as Budget Committee Vice Chair Nishimoto, who's the chair of the ILA Committee, for moving out Bill 13. Taken together, I think Bills 11, 12, and 13 will help to deal with the illegal game room issue that we suffer through here on this island. As we know, the illegal game rooms bring crime and drugs and other vices into our residential communities, and that needs to stop. So thank you, everyone, for working on this and supporting, these efforts. So the chair is going to recommend, if there's no further discussion, the chair is going to recommend the Bill 12 of 2025, CD1, be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. This brings us to agenda item number 7. This is Bill 41 of 2025. This repeals certain outdated, obsolete, or unnecessary provisions relating to the waivers of permit fees for businesses that create new jobs. This was introduced by myself back in April, and this is a follow-up to a previous cleanup bill that repealed the unused provisions that created incentives for certain new businesses. Since we repealed those, we had to make a corresponding change to ROH Chapter 18. We have with us the Director of Permitting and Planning. If she'd like to make any comments, she's not obligated to, okay. We will now proceed with any testimony. Clerks, is there anyone who'd like to testify on this item, either in person or online?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we are in discussion on Bill 41. Any discussion? There being no discussion, the chair recommends that Bill 41 of 2025 be reported out for second reading and scheduling of a public hearing. Any discussions, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. This brings us to agenda item number 8, Bill 31, 2025, CD1, addressing the Transit Construction Mitigation Fund. We have with us the Director, Angela Melody Young. Please proceed.
Aloha, Angela Melody Young, CARES. In strong support of the transit construction with the city and its people and the businesses that provide for economic development. It's a really good idea to be supportive of this. Thank you so much.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions? Okay, hearing no questions, we have with us the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. If you'd like to make any comments on Bill 31.
All along the rail line where construction is happening. Thank you.
Okay, members, Floor Leader Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Director Kawano, I have a question relating to if there's need for rulemaking again, since there's going to be new criteria with this program.
Yes, there will be. We're going to have to amend the rules we currently have in place. One requirement, for instance, is the limitation on employees. I think it's 15 or fewer right now. So that's going to have to be amended. So yes.
Okay. And that will be presented through public notice per usual?
Yes.
Okay,
yes.
Thank you.
Members, any other questions for the Director of BFS? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Since we've already called for testifiers, members, we're in discussion. Okay, seeing no further discussion, the chair recommends Bill 31, 2025, CD1 be reported out for passage on third reading. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. We already did agenda item number 9, so this brings us to agenda item number 10. This is resolution 25-136, authorizing a transfer not to exceed $37,452.32 from the Honolulu Emergency Services Department Administration activity, current expenses, character of expenditure, to the Honolulu Emergency Services Department Health Services branch activity, current expenses, character of expenditure, for the fiscal year 2025 to cover the first year of development and implementation of a new electronic medical record system. We have with us the Deputy Director of the Emergency Services Department, Ian Senti.
Hi, good morning, Chair and committee members. Again, Ian Santi, Deputy Director, Emergency Services, and I'm just here available for any questions.
Members, any questions for EMS? Floor Leader Cordero.
Thank you, Chair. Hi, Deputy Director. Thank you very much for presenting this. First off, is this going to be the initial or annual amount that you will then be budgeting for?
No, this is just the initial. So it's just a transfer to support the initial purchase of it. The EHR we've had have been in existence for almost the last 15 plus years and is currently outdated. So it's been a process for us to try and get a new vendor, the new system up and running.
And is this types of records keeping as a result of the transfer from the state to the city, or is this because of just updating records in general? Do we have these records?
This actually has nothing to do with the transfer from the state to the city. This is very specific to our city's health services, where our employees go for pre-employment and post-employment physicals. So we have a separate record-keeping system that we keep for all our city employees.
Thank you for that clarification. I appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, members, any other questions for EMS? Councilmember Okimoto.
Thank you, Chair. Aloha, Deputy Director. Regarding this fund, was this something that was planned in the fiscal year 2025 proposed budget?
No, it's not. It was not in the proposed budget at the time.
Okay, so that's what I'm trying to understand. And was this a cost that was overrun? Was this unanticipated?
Yes.
It
Because
was.
again, we've been discussing it for like the last, I'll give you 4 or 5 years of trying to get an updated electronic health record, but it's just a very long process to do it. So it was an unanticipated cost, and that's why we're doing the transfer.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Okay, thank you, members. Any other questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you very much. Clerks, is there anyone standing by to testify on this item, either in person or online?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we are in discussion on agenda item number 10. Any discussion? Okay, seeing no discussion, the chair recommends that resolution 25-136 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Next item, agenda item number 11, resolution 25-146, authorizing a transfer of $13,500,000 in general fund monies from the Special Field Operations, Support Services, and Administrative Services activities, salaries, character of expenditure to the patrol activity, salaries, character of expenditure for fiscal year 2025 to cover salary shortages. We have with us Major Hunter Alu from the, oh no, we have a different representative from Honolulu Police Department. Please proceed.
Hi, good morning. I'm Assistant Chief Ryan Nishmun from the Administrative Services Bureau, here to support Reso 25146 and to answer any questions.
Members, any questions on this Reso? Floor Leader Cordero.
Thank you. So last year, HPD in patrol gave lapsed $14.9 million. Did we have to transmit or transfer any funding for salary shortages to patrol last year?
Okay.
Good morning. I'm Major Brian Hironaka of HPD's Finance Division. The reason patrol lapsed so much was there was kind of like a glitch last year where normally we take partial from all the different activities and we build the amount that's used for the recruit salary pool. But that was not created last year. So because of that, that money was left in the activities. That's why so much money lapsed from patrol that year. But that type of lapse won't happen this year because we recreated the recruit salary pool.
So the recruit salary pool was being made, I guess, with the lapse in funds last year, is what you're saying?
No, so at the beginning of the year, we take a portion of funds from each activity, and it's taken and put into the administrative services activity, and that's used for the recruit salary pool.
And where does the recruit salary pool get housed in? Which division? And admin or support services?
Administrative services activity.
Administrative services. Okay, so then we would see that budgeted for every year going forward. Is that correct?
Yes. It was just that last year that there was an oversight that it wasn't created. So all of the funds were left in the respective activities that would have normally been put into that the recruit salary pool.
Okay, so Also last year, we had about 18 or 19 million dollars that was transferred in between different accounts for HPD. This, right, what we have before us is $13.5 million for salaries, right? And so, I mean, given the vacancies that HPD has, we may or may not have more or less officers in patrol that we're supporting for salaries. So how did we miss a $13.5 million salary shortage in the budgeting for this past fiscal year?
So as mentioned before, there was a lot of transfers last year because we didn't have that, the recruit salary pool created. So we didn't have enough salaries in the administrative services to pay the recruits, pay the people in the trading pool. That's why so much was transferred, because we had to create that pool through the year, through the resolutions. Now, in answer to your question, the 13 million is because patrol, through staff shortages and operations, in the first 1, 2, 3 quarters, they had shortfalls. So to meet those shortfalls, we pulled salaries from the 4th quarter of the patrol activity. But because we pulled to meet those, to offset those shortages throughout the year, now it finally caught up to us. So that's why we have to transfer funds from the activities to the patrol activity now.
How will this affect, how will the salary transfers affect, especially administrative services, which is being transferred from $11,100,000, as well as, support services with $2 million and special field operations at $400,000? Will it affect those salaries?
It will not impact any operations from those activities because the funds exist because of the vacant positions. And the reason administrative services has a larger amount is because, once again, it's for the recruit pool, and we didn't hire the amount that the pool is allocated for. So there's no, it's not going to affect anything because in the remainder of the fiscal year, we don't have time to hire any more recruits.
Okay, thank you. And as for recruit pool, that means it goes directly to just recruit classes and was it for salary, for those salaries for the recruit officers? Or, because I'm trying to tie it into the provision account that we have for recruitment and retention.
So in terms of funded positions, officers are not, how can I put it? They're not considered a funded position until they reach their first assignment. And that occurs after they finish, they go to recruit school, they enter the field training, then they go to what's called fourth watch, and then from there, they just kind of wait until there's a personal movement. At that point, when they get an actual P number, we call it, to their assignment, that's when their pay is taken from the different activity salaries. But until that point, all of the pay overtime that they earn while in that recruit pool is coming from that, what we call the recruit pool of salaries.
Okay, thank you. So the recruit pool is was set up this past fiscal year, and it's the first time it's being used is going to be in the next fiscal year then?
It's always set up traditionally. Okay. It's just that in the previous fiscal year, it was an oversight. It didn't get, the monies didn't get pulled out from the different activities. So they got left in their respective activities, and that's why the activities lapsed a lot more than they traditionally would.
Okay, and that's where majority of the 14.9 million in patrol lapse was a result of lapsing from, correct?
I can't say all of it, but that is a cause of why there was that lapse in patrol as opposed to not lapsing this year.
Okay, yeah, just HPD always, Major Hironaka, HPD is always providing the council with many transfer requests. So I just want to ensure that we know where these things are going. You know, when I was in my first term as vice chair of the committee, I was like, okay, yes, we need to do this, we need to do this, we need to do this. But overall, we need to also track where it's going when we see the lapse coming back in millions and millions and millions of dollars. And I just wanted to highlight that we want to ensure that, kind of like HFD, you are kind of being able to spend down the money down close to zero when we are budgeting for it. So thank you, Budget Chair.
I understand that. I just want to say that once again, last year regarding the salaries, because of what happened, it was not a typical year. But in the years past, it was there is that recruit salary pool that's created, and it was created this year, and it's something that we will remember to always be mindful that it is, so it doesn't happen again.
Thank you, Major.
Okay, members, any other questions? I do have one question. So you characterized last year as an anomaly, but in calendar year 23, so I guess FY 24, we had $4 million of council-approved transfers from the administrative services pool to various other divisions of HPD. Office of the Chief of Police, 1.6 million, Support Services, 1.3 million. It seems to me, though, that that these shifts do happen a lot. And so how can we work with you to eliminate the need for these sorts of transfers?
To be honest, that's a difficult, there's no real answer to that, because throughout the year, there's unpredictabilities, unpredictable things that happen throughout the year that would lead to these shortfalls happening.
But I guess, $4 million in calendar year 23, so that's FY 24, and then in calendar year 24, we as the council, approved a transfer of salaries of something like $28 million from one pool to another. And then this year, in calendar year 25, we've already approved transferring $4.875 million out of administrative service salaries. This just seems like there's a lot of transfers going on, and if we could get a little bit more clarity, we wouldn't have to be doing this so often. I mean, last year there were 4 different transfer rezos.
Well, I'm not sure of the previous one. I was not in the finance division in 23, but for the 4.8 or so one, that was the one that was for the vehicles, because we were told by BFS that we could not use the CIP funds. So we looked at the projections that we were going to have excess in the administrative services. So in order to get the vehicles and put them in category C, which was equipment, that was what that fund transfer was for.
Thank you, and that's a good clarification. Okay, so we transferred earlier this year $4.875 million out of administrative services, and in this resolution, we're proposing transferring another $11.1 million out of administrative services. So that's $15.375 million out of administrative services. This seems like an area that there must be a lot of money lying around. Why is there so much money available to be transferred from administrative services to other needed programs?
Well, as mentioned, it's for the recruit salary pool. So we don't know how many recruits we're going to hire. So I'm not sure of the exact number, but hypothetically, if it was like a 100, then if our projections for 4 classes each year, and we wanted to say hire in the 30s or 40s, then we would hit closer to 200, well, even in the 50s. But we don't hit the projection of 200 people entering into the recruit pool, maybe if it's 100, so we're going to have double what we need. But if we reduce that, then we're going to be limited to only hiring what the salary recruit pool can sustain.
Yeah. So how much do each of these recruits get upon hiring? Is this the $25,000 bonus? Is that where this comes from?
Well, that is covered by the pool as well, but it covers their salaries.
Covers the additional salary on top. So how much would the $25,000 plus an additional salary ballpark be per new officer that comes in? How much does a new officer make plus $25,000?
I'm not sure what their
just ballpark
salaries right now.
Let's round it to $100,000.
With the incentive? With the retention, it's what, 105,000.
105,000. So 15 million divided by roughly 100,000. I mean, that's 150 officers that you're projecting. And are we close to meeting that? We're obviously not, because there's a lot of money to be moved around, no?
That is a HRD question. Oh.
Yeah, that's about right. It's about 130, 150. Plus, we have the cadet program also that is funded through this, through the training pool.
Okay, that's enough questions for me, but this is an area that I think we ought to dive into a little bit more after we pass the budget, just because there are fairly large transfers, and HPD is the only department that's coming to us on such a regular basis with such large transfers. We'd like to figure that out before next fiscal year. Okay. Members, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, are there any testifiers? Clerks, anyone who's here in the chambers or online waiting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, members, we are in discussion. Floor Leader Cordero.
I have objections to this. Thank you.
Okay, noting the objections of Floor Leader Cordero. Any other discussion? Seeing no discussion, the chair recommends a resolution 25-146 be reported out for adoption. There having been an objection, we're going to do a roll call vote. Councilmember Cordero.
No.
Councilmember Kiaina.
Aye.
Councilmember Weyer.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nishimoto. The chair votes WR. There being a sufficient number of ayes, this motion carries, and we'll move on to agenda item number 12. This is resolution 25-159, authorizing transfer of $22,000 in general fund monies from HPD Special Field Operations Activity, current expense character of expenditure to HPD Special Field Operations Activity, equipment character of expenditure for FY25 to purchase night vision scopes for the Specialized Service Division's Special Weapons and Tactics team that will increase safety and security of the city and county of Honolulu. We do have HPD here. And now we have Major Hunter Alu.
Morning, Major Hunter Alu, HPD of the Major of the Specialized Services Division, here to answer any questions you may have in support of Reso 25-159.
Members, any questions? Floor Leader Cordero.
Thank you. So is this going to a specific division within HPD? Is it going for patrol or any specific, is it like for a crime reduction unit?
The funds are currently in the Specialized Services Division budget. It's going to stay in the Specialized Services Division budget. We're kind of just repurposing the funds to purchase the scopes.
Okay, thank you. And is there a certain amount of, is there an expiration date for those equipment that you are purchasing for? And are you purchasing them on a regular basis?
It's something we kind of look at. It's over 5 years what we're looking at, somewhere between 5 and 7 or 8. It kind of depends on technology, what we're looking at. Right now, as far as our capabilities, we're way behind on the night scope capabilities. So we're in dire need of an update for it. So that's why I'm kind of proposing this now. But as technology increases, we kind of see what's available and we base it then.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much.
Okay, members, any other questions? I do have one question. This implies then that the equipment character of expenditure for special field operations was exhausted?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Do we know when it was exhausted?
As far as when it was exhausted, yeah. I'm not sure offhand. Yeah.
Morning, I'm Ryan Hironaka, Major with Finance Division. In terms of Category C, Specialized Services or Support, Special Field Operations Bureau didn't have anything allocated to Category C, so there's no Category C funds.
I see. Okay. Thank you. Members, any other questions? Floor Leader Cordero.
Oh, thank you. So I have a question relating to current expenses versus equipment. So are you saying that for current expenses, these types of regularly funded, like night vision scopes or other types of things that you can buy in bulk can't be funded through CE?
It's because of the amount that it costs. It's over $10,000 per.
Oh, okay, understood. Thank you. And yeah, thank you for that information.
Okay, members, any further questions? Okay, seeing none. We already called for testimony, no? Okay, testimony. Is there anyone here in the chambers or standing by online waiting to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we're in discussion. Seeing no discussion, the chair recommends a resolution 25-159 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Okay, hearing none, the resolution, the recommendation passes. Next up, okay, it's 11:56. We can either do one more item or we can take a little break. One more item. Okay. Agenda item number 13, this is Resolution 25-137, approving the cost items for bargaining units 1 and 10 collective bargaining agreements between employer and UPW for the period from July 1st, 2025 to and including June 30th, 2029 for included employees in bargaining units 1 and 10 of the City and County of Honolulu. We have with us the Director of Human Resources, Nola Miyazaki.
Good morning, Budget Chair and members of the Budget Committee. Nola Miyazaki, Director of Human Resources. On behalf of Mayor Blangiardi, we respectfully request the Council to for favorable consideration of the cost items that have been negotiated for UPW Bargaining Unit 1, Blue Collar, and 10 healthcare workers, including emergency management personnel.
Okay, members, any questions for the Director of Human Resources? Okay, seeing none, we will move on to testimony. Is there anyone here in the chambers or online who would like to testify on this item?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we are in discussion. Okay, there being no discussion, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-137 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Agenda item number 14, Resolution 25-138, approving the cost items for bargaining units 2, 3, 4, and 13, collective bargaining agreements between the employer and HGEA for the period July 1st, 2025 to and including June 30th, 2029 for included employees in bargaining units 2, 3, 4, and 13 of the City and County of Honolulu. We have with us again the Director of Department of Human Resources, Nola Miyazaki.
Thank you, Budget Chair, members of the committee. Again, on behalf of Mayor Blangiardi, we respectfully request your favorable consideration of the cost items negotiated by the employer group for HGEA bargaining units 2, 3, 4, and 13.
Okay, members, any questions? Okay, there being none, we'll proceed with testimony. Clerks, is there anyone here in the chambers or online who'd like to testify?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we are in discussion. Any discussion? Seeing none, the chair recommends a Resolution 25-138 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations to the recommendation to report out? Seeing none, so ordered. Agenda item number 15, Resolution 25-150. This authorizes the Director of BFS to issue and sell in one or more series not to exceed $11 million principal amount of general obligation bonds of the City and County of Honolulu for financing the amount appropriated in Ordinance number 25-blank. Also referred to upon its approval is Bill 23, 2025, and as may be further amended of the City and County of Honolulu for the purposes of financing capital costs of the Honolulu Rail Transit Project. We have with us the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, Andy Kawano.
Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. We put in the request for Resolution 25-150 and respectively ask council members to approve the issuance of up to $11 million for rail construction. And this amount follows the full funding grant agreement that was put in place, I think, back in 2017. So we're asking for support to sell bonds up to $11 million.
Members, any questions for the Director of BFS? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Clerks, is there anyone who's registered to testify on this item or standing by to testify on this item, either in person or online?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we're in discussion. Any discussion? Seeing none, the chair recommends that Resolution 25-150 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Agenda item number 16 is Resolution 25-151, authorizing the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services to issue and sell in one or more series not to exceed $725 million in principal amount of general obligation bonds of the City and County of Honolulu for financing the amounts appropriated in certain capital budget ordinances of the City and County of Honolulu specified in such capital budget ordinances. Again, we have with us the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services, Andy Kawano.
Again, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. We are respectfully asking council members to approve Resolution 25-151 for the sale of bonds of up to $725 million. The new money within that amount will be about $100 million. The refunding monies make up the difference, and we refund bonds to reduce debt service. The present value of the expected reduction in debt service over the 25-year term of the bonds is in excess of $30 million.
Okay, members, any questions for the Director of BFS? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Clerks, is there anyone who's registered to testify on this item or standing by to testify on this item, either in person or online?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, there being none, members, we're in discussion. There being no discussion, the chair recommends a resolution 25-151 be reported out for adoption. Any discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. Last agenda item number 17, resolution 25-156, approving a one-time compromise of $95,684.48 in outstanding penalties and interest owed by Kupu for the tax years beginning July 1st, 2017 through August 31st, 2025. We have with us the Director of the Department of Budget and Fiscal Services, Andy Kawano.
For the record again, Andy Kawano, Director of Budget and Fiscal Services. We are through resolution 25-156, respectfully requesting that council members allow us to go through the one-time tax compromise. Kupu is an organization that provides support and benefit to disadvantaged youths. They've been providing services for a number of years. Unfortunately, as provided by one of the principals of the organization, they were leasing land initially from HCDA. The lease was not communicated to the Real Property Assessment Division. When the lease got recorded in 2019 with the Bureau of Conveyances, Real Property Assessment was advised of such, and it resulted in a tax being assessed or levied from 2017 for fiscal years 2017, 2018, 2019. For fiscal year 2020, Kupu applied for its exemption and was awarded the exemption by BFS. The resolution would essentially recognize that Kupu does good work and will provide for a compromise of the taxes and penalties that have built up of approximately $95,000. Kupu, in return, will pay the taxes that were due for the years 2017, 2018, and 2019.
Okay, thank you. Members, any questions for the Director of Budget and Fiscal Services? Okay, seeing none. Clerks, is there anyone? I see we have two registered testifiers. Is either John Leong or Kabika Riley here in the chamber to testify? All right, we got Matt Bauer from Kupu in their place. Right side button, Matt, yeah.
Aloha, my name is Matthew Bauer, Chief Operating Officer of Kupu, one of the co-founders. I know it's been a long day. I'm here to answer any questions that you guys might have about the situation.
Members, any questions? Okay, seeing none, thank you. Is there anyone else who'd like to testify on this item, noting that it's the last agenda item? I'll testify. Okay, please proceed.
I just want to be supportive. So Angela Melody Young testifying on behalf of CARES. Since Kupu is doing a lot of work with youths and education and to create a better future for the community and the environment, it'd be good to honor the purposes of the resolution.
Great. Members, any questions for the testifier? Okay, seeing none, clerks, is there anyone else waiting to testify either in person or online?
Chair, there are none.
Okay, members, in this case, we're in discussion. Any discussion on this item? Seeing no discussion, the chair recommends a resolution 25-156 be reported out for adoption. Any further discussion, objections, or reservations? Hearing none, so ordered. There being no further business, the meeting is going to be adjourned shortly. We have a choir named Samiweng from Ilocos Norte National High School from Lawag, one of our sister cities, who will be performing in the courtyard for the next half hour. So please say hello to them. They won 2 top awards in the 12th World Choir Games in South Korea in 2023. All right, there being no further business, the meeting is adjourned at 12:06. Mahalo, everyone.